Oh shit. Um. Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. I think we're back. I think we're back. I think it's gonna be okay. I mean, I hope it is. Anyway, uh, let's see. Let's put up Hey, Rainbow. Oh shit! I was reading other things, and now it's gonna look a little bit of change. What is this? Where is done? Not showing. Where are you? There you are. There you are. Oh, nice. Look at that. So lovely. Oh, you actually. I don't think I ever found out. Yeah, I want like options. Let's turn the sound effects like way down. Ooh. Save. Okay. So, oh, it still looks like shit. Oh boy, it's really bad right now. Uh okay, wait. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We should be back. We should be back. So yeah, welcome back to the stream. Um we're doing reading Rainbow but Dare. Uh yeah. And then and then later we'll get back to Ethan Carter and I'll have another anxiety attack again. Yeah, that no, that was I came so close to just being like, fuck it, I'm leaving. I'm never coming again. But I'm glad I stuck with it. I'm glad I stuck it out because oh boy. mm. It's I get really like yeah, when I get nervous, I laugh a lot. Like I'm already like a giggly laughy person. But like when I get really nervous, I just have uncontrollable giggles. And funny story, one time I had to like go and file a police report and like answer a bunch of questions. And I laughed uncontrollably the whole fucking time. Could not stop it. I don't know why. Um so yeah. So yeah, that was a fun story. But anyway, reading Rainbow the Gare. So we have three, little texts today on my cat. My cat's here like, hey babe, are you okay? Do you need therapy? Call a therapist for you. I can try to use my little cat paws to like dial on the phone if you need me to. Okay, we're gonna read three texts, three chapters. The first one is pedagogic. Can you highlight, please? This is so unhinged. Here we go. Pedagogical. I hate that word. I hate pedagogy. I don't hate the concept of it. I just hate the word itself. I don't like it. It's not a good. It's not a friendly sounding word. It's got too many. It's got too many consonants. Don't do that. You are gonna knock things over, and that's not good for anyone. Anyway, we have that pedagogical and social political implications of code meshing in classrooms. Some considerations for a translingual orientation to writing. We have that. Then we have donkeys and other animals will be shot. What the fuck? What the fuck did I just read? What else? What else is there? Oh, here we go. Here's another title. It's the Wild West out there, a new linguistic frontier in U.S. college composition. Okay, that's number two, I guess. It might not have been, but I don't know how to read. I don't know how to. And then number three, keep code meshing. Lucky number 13. I love it. I love to see it. I love it. Two of my favorite numbers. Nine is my mostest favoriteest of numbers. Um, I'm a Scorpio, and my planet is Pluto, and Pluto is, number 9. Pluto is definitely absolutely a planet. I don't care what the scientists say. I actually found this one sweater on Pinterest that's like R.I.P. to Pluto. It was so cute. I really want it. Costs money. Anyway, no, I was thinking of like setting up my Patreon, but at the same time, I don't really want to like do that. I don't really want to do that. I mean, if I did, it's like you have to like decide the tiers for things, and it's like, what would my tier be? Like, I'm gonna start a Discord, and like once a week, I'll show up in the Discord and like threaten to drop a piano on like a random person in the Discord. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know who would pay. I mean, ideally, I am appealing to the lesbians, and the lesbians will want me to threaten to drop pianos on them. But practically speaking, there's not a lot of lesbians out there. From like a numbers thing, I don't know if there's like, first of all, there's not very many lesbians, right? But also there's, I don't know the ratio of like lesbians who want to have me threaten to drop pianos on them to the percentage of lesbians that don't want that. Although if you go by like Tumblr, a lot of them would want that. A lot of them would want that. But then again, how many of them have money to pay monthly to pay me to do that? Um, you know, you know. I don't know. I don't know. If you want me to be in a Discord with you, and once a week threaten to drop a piano on you, and you want to pay me money to do that, let me know, and I'll get right on that. Otherwise, ignore everything I just. It's all part. I'm thinking like whenever I do this, I think about like my professor and how my professor will think if they ever watch like the full VOD, or like the people from the class too. If they ever watch the full VODs, I don't think that any of them do. But I'm just like very gay. I'm very gay. And I don't know how that comes off to Normans. But I'm very gay in that like online kind of way, the way too online kind of way, like the Tumblr way. So like I don't know how that comes off to Normans. But anyway, let's get with it. Pedagogical and socio-political implications of code meshing in classrooms. I have my my hand right here, just hanging off the side of my chair, and my cat is down there on the ground, and he's like bumping his head against my hand, like very aggressive. Anyway, code meshing in classrooms. Some considerations for a translingual orientation to writing read aloud.
The current focus on language by some U.S. rhetoric and composition scholars.
Oh, as per usual, if it talks too fast, if it reads too fast, let me know. I'll slow it down. If it reads too slow, well, I think actually we could go a little. Oh no, it's all the way fast. If it reads too fast, I'll slow it down. If it reads too slow, I feel your pain. I really do. Oh god. Anyway, let's go.
Scholars is a refreshing term for educator researchers for whom proposals such as code.
Oh yeah. Pausing again. Any questions, comments, concerns? Any little brain thoughts you got? Just feel free to share them in the chat. This is. I may be a nerd, and I may be a nerd. Working on a master's project, but that doesn't mean the non-nerds are not welcome to interact. We welcome everyone who wants to interact and to interact in any way they want to, as long as you're not being an asshole. You could be a little bit of an asshole, but just a little bit. Be an asshole within like within reasonable boundaries. Okay, reasonable boundaries for asshole. Anyway, let's go.
Code meshing and translingualism represent a lived reality. As a Jamaican educator researcher who has lived and studied in the United States of America, I consider code meshing as one instantiation of a translingual approach to writing, even though proposals for code meshing preceded an elaboration of translingualism. In this chapter, I raise 3 concerns about these proposals: problems regarding valorizing, yet not legitimizing, minoritized languages, problems arising from language users' inability to code switch effectively, and the potential for ignoring sameness and difference while attempting to address difference in language use, with naturalized double consciousness and transferred mainstreamers being among categories/groupings.
Hold on. Problems arising from and the potential for ignoring sameness and difference while attempting to address difference in language use. Let's go with red today. Red doesn't hurt my eyes as much. Just highlight the fucking thing. Very red. That's very, very red. Anyway, um, sameness and difference while attempting to address difference in language use. I want to know what that means. That's interesting. What is this in this chapter? Okay, so this is what we're gonna. This is like this ain't the thesis statement, I guess. The thesis statement is the part of the essay where you tell people what they're gonna do. I mean, maybe it is the thesis. This is telling us what we're gonna do here. So we're gonna 3 concerns: valorizing yet not legitimizing minoritized languages. Okay, so valorizing yet not legitimizing. That would be like we can study you, but you cannot study yourself. I think that's the vibe. I think that's the vibe there. Problems arising from language users' inability to code switch effectively. I mean, I think that's kind of obvious, maybe. And then ignoring sameness and difference while attempting to address difference in language. So we're gonna look. I'm not sure how well this is gonna work out because I this is not really. I don't really consume things. I don't really consume in like a coherent fashion. My brain is like a basket. I just pour all the words in and make sense of it later. But I'm gonna try to like do the things that I normally do without thinking about them, like on purpose. And I don't know how that's gonna work. But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. Um okay, let's see. With naturalized double consciousness and transferred mainstreamer being among categories grouping or ignored. Okay, hold on. What the stop that absolute beast. I love. I love you. You are wonderful. But stop. Cease your shenanigans. I'll hold him. Yes. For love. Love. Will be no for destroying my basket. Oh, that's a nice it's a nice nice basket. Okay. It is a nice basket. A nice basket. Look, it's I don't want it to be destroyed. I like it. I think it looks nice down there. It looks destroy it. Don't destroy it. Don't destroy things that I like. Stuck. You're stuck. When you decide to be a dummy head, when you decide to be a dummy head, you get stuck on things and you break things and you destroy things. And mommy gets annoyed with you. Yeah, don't do that. Be a good boy. Be a good boy. Be a good boy. Look at him. Come on. Look at how naughty he is. He just wants mayhem and make it great. Yeah, you just want to cause mayhem. Chaos. You are blue, and everyone else should be blue too, huh? Yeah. Hey, yeah, I cat hair. Growing like so loud right now. He likes to be picked up and just like held like yeah. Oh, that's so rude. Yeah, put you on the floor. You're not gonna cause mayhem. You're not gonna destroy my stuff. Huh? You're not gonna do that. Okay, let's go. With naturalized, okay, so the potential for ignoring well, with naturalized double consciousness and transferred mainstreamers being among categories grouping that are ignored. Okay, so naturalized double consciousness, transferred main. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I do color. Yellow. Anyway, I begin by presenting an aspect. Wait, we can
Groupings that are
read
ignored
that.
slash erased. I begin by presenting an aspect of the background to linguistic behavior in post-colonial societies, especially in the Americas, and then I outline the proposals for code meshing and translingualism and list their potential benefits to lead into an elaboration of their implications for Jamaican and other American students in U.S.
Okay.
classrooms. I examine a code meshed artifact from Jamaica to illustrate the concerns, most of which relate to code meshing but which present important considerations for a translingual orientation to writing in any multilingual context. Languaging in post-colonial societies. Post-colonial societies have been marked by linguistic chauvinism,
Yeah.
the belief in the superiority of one's
You want to
language,
get this?
especially in the
Okay,
case
go.
of a standard language such as English, and linguistic imperialism, the imposition of one language, such as
Oh,
literacy as translingual practice, between
that is
communities and
so
classrooms,
rude.
edited by Suresh Kanagaraja, Taylor and Francis Group, copyright 116 Paul K. Matsuda Vivat Milson White. English,
Hold on.
as dominant over another or
There was a section heading. Languaging in post-colonial societies. Okay.
others, see Scott Napkangas, 2002, often with the selected official dialect, the standard, being considered as linguistic capital, see Bourdieu, 1991, and being promoted slash treated as language rather than as a language. Given this erroneous association of the standard with language and not just a language, other dialects and other standards are simultaneously rendered peripheral or minoritized as are their users. Arising from these divisions and treatments of language varieties have been considerations of languages in contact as systems that
The standard language and not just a language. Other dialects are simultaneously rendered peripheral or minoritized, as are their users. Okay. Yeah. Ah, what you wiggling? He is being so naughty. Okay? Like he really wants. Okay. So yeah, yeah, you're little. Huh? You want love? Love, have love. Post-colonial societies are marked by linguistic chauvinism, the belief in the superiority of one's language, especially in the case of a standard language such as English, and linguistic imperialism, the imposition of one language, such as English, as dominant over another or others, and with the selected official dialect, the standard being considered as linguistic capital. Being promoted or treated as language rather than as a language. Ooh, treated as as language. Okay, that's lots of interesting, lots of interesting things here. Oh, I could probably. Okay. Anyways, given this erroneous association of the standard with language and not just a language, other dialects simultaneously rendered peripheral or minoritized as users, arising from the divisions and treatments of language varieties, have been considerations. These divisions, treatments of language varieties, have been considerations of languages in contact systems that are either discrete or integrated. Discrete or integrated, like separate or together. With these considerations suggesting whether or not contact languages have a. Okay. Okay. So post-colonial society. We have a language, English. Then we have other dialects and standards. Dialects and standards. You are distracted. Not helpful. This is not helpful. That is here. Anyway. These considerations suggesting whether or not so like I'm trying to think of like examples. Like, can a person living in New York talk to a person who lives in California? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, well, I'm not saying that I don't know if they can. I know that they can. I don't know if that is the correct vibe to get from that. But
That are
anyway.
either discrete or integrated. With these strategy proposed for languaging in
Oh, no.
strategy proposed for language
That's not what you know that.
peripheral or minoritized as are their users. Arising as systems that are either discrete or integrated, with these considerations suggesting whether or not the contact languages are compatible. The more blurred the boundaries between language varieties in a setting, the more compatible the languages are thought to be. This blurriness/fuzziness is perhaps most evident where standard and non
Or the more blurred the boundaries between language varieties and okay. So how do languages actually this point?
non-standard languages that share some features such as lexis coexist as in a situation such as the United States with African American Vernacular English and Standard American English, SAE, or Jamaica where Jamaican Creole, JC, and Standard English, SE, share vocabulary. Some policymakers and educators consider this blurriness a hindrance to standard language and literacy development. However, for others the students' repertoire of languages is on a continuum and the languages operate as resources rather than hindrances to language development in general. Where a continuum exists or is accepted, and even where the languages are distinct,
Stay
i.e.,
away from
not
the
sharing any
keyboard.
linguistic feature, speakers' linguistic
not
behavior
bring
is
a cat
marked
into
heavily
the
by code
TV.
switching, movement back and forth between codes, code shifting, movement from one code to another and remaining in the latter during interaction, code mixing, blending codes in varying degrees, and so on. See Isaacs, 2006, for some definitions. These linguistic moves are sometimes motivated by social dictates, by ignorance, by desires to make one language contest or complement the other, or to signal social or cultural affiliation, or to show dexterity in switching, or to achieve other specific purposes, or for no apparent reason but the fact that more than one code is available to speakers. Strategy proposed for languaging in U.S. classrooms, code meshing. Considering the fuzziness that can manifest where a continuum is acknowledged, and considering the underachievement in African Americans who are told to code switch, in the sense of style shifting, Young, 2007, proposes that teachers should allow students to write as they speak in everyday situations, that is, to code mesh. For Young, what he calls Black English Vernacular, BEV, and White English Vernacular, WEV, are not all that different. Eschewing the binaristic logic that often attends discussions about the two varieties, Young opines that the differences between WEV and BEV are exaggerated, resulting in pedagogies that yield limited numbers of African Americans who master the standard language, p. 134. To address this problem, Young proposes that educators allow African American literacy as translingual practice, between communities and classrooms, edited by copyright, pedagogical and socio-political implications. It's the Wild West out there. 117. Students to use a thorough, seamless mixture, p. 106, of their vernacular and the standard as happens in everyday language use. The benefits, he believes, would extend beyond producing better papers and have an effective value because Teach ERS would stop considering students' linguistic habits as subliterate, fundamentally incompatible with what's considered standard, p. 106. Young demonstrates that African American students rarely use only one dialect, instead, they operate in fluid ways, mingling and blending BEV and WEV. Young does not consider such co-mingling to be erroneous. He proposes that should African American students be allowed to engage in a similar blending of codes in classrooms, such students would feel that they and their language habits are validated and would probably engage more with school and realize increased literacy levels. Kanagaraja, 2006, drawing on both the complementary and contestable relations among languages in his culture, proposes that students in the United States be allowed to include their non-standard dialects and other Englishes in the standard code. In Kanagaraja's 2009 cultural tradition, writers have used languages to contest each other, thereby elevating the respectability of the vernacular and democratizing the elite language, p. 27. However,
What was that quote? Writers have used language to contest each other, thereby elevating the respectability of the vernacular and democratizing the elite language. Ooh.
However, because of the highly multilingual nature of his and other such societies, languages are often complementary. Kanagaraja, 2006, has also observed the tendency among some of his African American and World English-speaking students to refuse, or be unable, to edit out their dialects and languages from materials in SAE, p. 597. For him, these inclusions are fruitful rather than distracting. Based on his experiences and observations, Kanagaraja views code meshing as a way to acknowledge all of the linguistic resources of multilingual students, and wishes other educators would acknowledge same. Philosophy proposed to guide languaging in U.S. classrooms, translingualism. Proposals for code meshing preceded the definition of an overarching philosophy for languaging in U.S. classrooms proposed by Horner, Liu, Royster, and Trimber, 2011. Beyond addressing African Americans or speakers of World Englishes, Horner et al. Consider all language users for whom a translingual approach would be useful in this age. In this orientation, approach is stressed rather than any fixed form. A review of this approach bears representing in the co-author's words. This approach, the authors say, sees difference in language not as a barrier to overcome or as a problem to manage, but as a resource for producing meaning in writing, speaking, reading, and listening. Horner et al., 2011, p. 303. It treats standardized rules as historical codifications of language that inevitably change through dynamic processes of use, and it proclaims that writers can, do, and must negotiate standardized rules in light of the contexts of specific instances of writing. P.
You are sitting keyboard, making the keyboard change colors. Why must you do this? Okay. That was so mean. You stop that. Oh, you stop. You can't see what he's doing, but he is vicious. I am being viciously attacked right now. That is so fucking mean. At you. Stop attacking me. This approach accepts and says the inevitability and necessity of interaction among languages with languages and across language practice. The authors. It treats difference in language not as a barrier to overcome or as a problem to manage, but as a resource for producing meaning in writing, speaking, and listening, or reading and listening. It treats standardized rules as historical codifications of language that inevitably change through dynamic process of use, and it proclaims that writers can, do, and must negotiate standardized rules in light of the context of specific instances of writing. Okay. Hey. 4. Philosophy proposed to guide languaging in U.S. classrooms, translingual. Excuse me. You go right back to that thing. You want the treat. You can't have the treat. I'll lock you in the bedroom. You know that? I have to lock you in the bedroom. You're not gonna like that. You want to be locked in the bedroom? No, you don't. You want to be a good boy. You want to be not locked in the bedroom. You want to be not locked in the bedroom. That's what you want. That's what you want. That's exactly what you want. No. Stop being unhinged. My love. My love. Being unhinged. You can't be unhinged every time I start to stream. You can't. You can't. You can't. No, you can't. So pissed. He just wants to like do whatever the hell he wants to, and it's like, but no, you cannot do that. Cannot do that. Cannot be unhinged. I am probably like reinforcing bad behavior because I keep petting him, and, like giving him attention. No, hinged. No, no. I'll lock you in the bedroom. Let's go. Let's go. It's gonna be like I don't know, 5 minutes before he's pounding on the door. But you know what? That's okay. In that 5 minutes, I will have, gone through what I want to go through. Okay, so philosophy proposed to guide. Proposals precede the definition of an overarching philosophy for language beyond addressing African Americans or speakers of world Englishes. They consider all languages users for whom translingual approach would be useful in this age. And this orientation approach is stressed rather than any fixed form. A review bears representing in the co-author's words. Okay. This approach sees difference in language not as a barrier to overcome or as a problem to manage, but as a resource for producing meaning. It treats standardized rules as historical codifications of language that inevitably change through the dynamic process of use. And it proclaims that writers can do and must negotiate standardized rules in light of the context of specifics of writing. So I'm guessing specific instances of writing would be like if you're writing an essay, you have to follow specific rules. Like genre. Standardized rules in the light of the context. Like instance, right? Genre. That's genre. Can do and must. Must they? Must they? Must they? I don't know. This approach accepts and emphasizes the inevitability and necessity of interaction among languages, within languages, and across language practices. We already read that. They conclude that translingualism teaches. What does it teach? Language users to assume and expect that each new instance of language use brings the need and opportunity to develop new ways of using language and to draw on a range of language resources. Okay. Okay.
A range of language resources, p. 312.
Shush.
Potential benefits of code meshing as strategy and of translingualism as philosophy. Given the facts of increasing migration and late globalization, and the attendant contact of languages and cultures, and reshaping of literacy practices to address these developments, as well as the glaring underachievement of significant number bears of students from certain social groups, proposals for code meshing and translingualism are welcome. Indeed, as a Jamaican educator researcher with similar concerns to Young, 2007, about the underachievement of students from certain socio-economic backgrounds, and considering the ways that languages, cultures, and peoples will continue to intersect thanks to continued migration and techno-globalism, I am fascinated by these proposals. Where code meshing is
Techno-globalism. I kind of hate that word. They just mean like social media. Hmm. I mean, they probably mean more than just social media, but probably, any type of communication that is mitigated through like technology. Hmm. I don't know. I kind of have thoughts about the way that they talk. I kind of have thoughts about the way they talk about like the globalizing force of technology. Um, um and maybe it's less of thoughts and more of like feelings. I kind of have feelings. Hmm. No, yeah, I need to think about this more.
concerned, I can envisage the intertwined socio-political, psychological, and pedagogical benefits of helping to valorize minoritized languages, counter linguistic prejudices, and therefore subvert the hegemony of standardized languages. Code meshing could also help students develop cognitive fluency and increase their engagement with learning. See Milson White, 2011. A translingual approach, as a philosophy on languaging, could prove useful for both educator and student, foregrounding student writers' agency, allowing for discussion and negotiations of what is written, and increasing learning for both parties. Concerns regarding code meshing and translingualism. However, how these proposals are to be realized amongst specific linguistic and
There he
cultural
is.
groups could be problematic. Indeed, these proposals evoke some serious concerns with regard to Jamaican and other American students in U.S. classrooms. Here, I dare to use the term American loosely to include North American, Central American, Caribbean, and South American.
Where you at? Oh yeah, I have the thing. Oh my god, there's so many trees flying everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, I think we took care of that. I think we took care of that. Let's go.
American. What are these concerns? First, there are problems with valorizing, yet not legitimizing.
They're not
Slash can be
legitimizing.
problems arising from a lack of adequate knowledge about the rhetorical strategies of switching. Kanagaraja, 2006, p. 6.
Rhetorical strategies switching. So I actually had an interesting moment on Twitter earlier today where I was like reading somebody's tweet, and then somebody responded to the tweet, and I was reading the response to the tweet, and the person's like, "I don't like rhetorics in my politics." I don't like my I don't like my politics to involve rhetoric. And I'm just like thinking to myself, like, you are using rhetoric right now. Rhetoric is just the way that we choose to make the arguments that we're making. Like, you can say, "Oh, I don't like the rhetorical choices you made to make that argument," but you can't say that you don't like people using rhetoric to make arguments. That's kind of like it's like you know, you make a pie, right? But you don't make the filling, you just make the crust. I mean, sure, you have a nice crust there, but you don't have any filling, except it's like you didn't make the pie or the crust because I don't know. I don't fucking know, man. I don't know. I don't know what would lead a person to think something like that. It was very silly. But yeah, the rhetorical strategies of switching. So rhetoric, rhetorical strategies, right? This is why we make the choices we do. We're having strategies, right? The why we make the choices we do to say the things that we're gonna. Because I can say that the cat is gray, but there are infinite ways of saying that the cat is gray. I can say that the cat is gray. I could say that my cat is a gray cat. I could say that that cat over there is a gray cat. I could say there's a gray cat and he lives in my house. I could say my cat is what did I say earlier? Blue. That's another word for gray. Those are all rhetorical choices. And I make those different rhetorical choices based on, the vibes. What are the vibes? How am I going to respond, So, lack of adequate knowledge about the rhetorical strategies of the vibes. I don't know. I mean, you know, I don't know. But anyway,
602. And, third, there is the potential for ignoring sameness and difference while attempting to address difference in language.
you said that. You said that already. Just tell me what that means. You said that already.
Language
Tell me
use.
what you
With
have to
regard
tell
to
me
the
what it
first
means.
concern, proposals for including other codes/varieties in classrooms where standard English is required usually mention the benefits of valorizing minoritized students' languages simultaneous with developing students.
Usually mention the benefits of rising minoritized students developing benefits. What does that look like? Like we need to study this, right? And that's what that means. We need to study African American vernacular English, right? But we don't want to see you using it. I think that is what they're trying to say there, right?
Students writing in English, see Bean ETAL, 2003, Elbow, 1999. However, I suspect that educators could help minoritized students address the twofold goal of making meaning and communicating that meaning not simply by valorizing literacy as translingual practice between communities and class pedagogical and socio-political implications. It's the Wild West out there. 119
Mhm.
language varieties, but also by helping to establish their legitimacy. Indeed, I find that code meshing and slash or a translingual approach may be problematic with specific regard to Jamaican Creole, JC. Of course, problems could arise too with regard to some standards, such as Spanish, when the language is tied to a country such as Mexico rather than to Spain.
What?
The need to first establish the legitimacy of this non-standard language, JC, seems critical so that, when students include JC items in standardized English, students will understand the terms as such and be able to interrogate the power structures attending such items as well as those in English. What are the reasons? One reason is that JC is a contact language that is stigmatized. Formed in the crucible of the plantation from the contact between European, African.
Hold on. Hold on. The need to first establish the of this non-standard language seems critical so that when students include items in standardized English. Students will understand the terms as such and be able to interrogate the power structures attending such items as well as those in English. Huh. Huh. Hmm. We have the understanding the terms, and we also have power structures. This kind of reminds me of the cultural appropriation arguments regarding like people who just like adopt words from AAVE like without really knowing what they mean and just use them. Like establish the legitimacy. Like create a dictionary, right? Because a dictionary is a legitimizing force. It says this is what a word is, this is what it means, this is how people use it, this is how it's spelled, right? A dictionary. To establish the legitimacy, we have to make a dictionary. So then when students include it in standardized English, when they use it along with standardized English, they'll understand the terms and be able to interrogate the power structures attending such items. Hmm. Okay.
African and indigenous Caribbean languages. The Creole language epitomizes transculturation. See Pratt, 1991. With English providing the lexis for Creole and this shared base rendering both languages.
Just want to like say that I don't think that you know making a dictionary is the only means of legitimization. I just think it's an example because like the English language itself, like we didn't really have like standardized spellings in English until people made the dictionary and it went out to a wide audience of people who then wrote the words like they read in the dictionary. So yeah, that's why lots of words are spelled funny. Anyway,
Languages similar. JC has been denigrated for centuries. See Milson White, 2006. Creole-speaking Jamaicans have internalized the stigma attached to the Creole, developing a contradictory attitude to SE and to JC what Kotru and call attitude schizophrenia. E15. In this kind of situation, people is in that speaker an identity and want it kept separate from SE for educational from learning. In much the same way that some Spanish-speaking parents in the United States react to bilingual programs when these parents' main concern is children to learn English. At this English speakers, feeling that they know a range of Englishes and produce SE, see Nero, 1997, 2006. Another reason is that Jamaica's linguistic context defies facile descriptions. There is lack of agreement among Creole linguists regarding the specific linguistic model that obtains in the Jamaican language situation because of very complex variability in the country. For a long time, Jamaica has been described as diglossic, since there are two separate language varieties, each with its own specific functions within the society.
described as hold up, the word just dropped. Diglossic, like glossic, like a glossary, and die like two. Let's find out. Let's find out. Let's find out what that means. Situation in which two dialects or languages are used in fairly strict compartmentalization by a single language community. I see. So, two distinct varieties of the same language are used in the community. One regarded as high variety and the other low variety. Each variety is used for distinct functions. High and low complement each other. So,
Society, Devonish, 1986.
here, two separate language varieties, each with its own specific functions within the society. Okay, okay, I see you. You are being seen. Going.
1986. P9. For example, JC for informal situations and SE for official business. However, linguists also speak of a continuum ranging from basilectal Creole, varieties most removed from English and associated with rural areas, through mesolectal Creole, spoken in urban areas, to acrolectal English, varieties closest to the standard and associated with educated speakers. Devonish explains that because of the similarity of the vocabulary of Creole and English, there has been a tendency to develop a series of language varieties in between the most Creole varieties of language on the one hand, and the most standard varieties of English, on the other. P 115. The term Creole continuum is, therefore, used to refer to the range of varieties between the Creole base and Standard English. The use of the term continuum is, however, as problematic as the determination of the boundary between Creole and English. Craig, 2006.
Use of the term continuum is as problematic as the determination of the boundary. Okay. Why?
2006 notes that English Creole, varieties that constitute the mesolect, and Standard English are more distinguishable in theory than in reality. P 108. Observing changes in the use of literacy as translingual practice between copyright 120 Paul K. Matsuda Vivat Milson White. Official and non-standard languages. Another Caribbean linguist Robertson, 1996, maintains that the Creole and standard languages in the Caribbean are not really in a complementary or diglossic relationship. P 113. Cottrell, 1992, aptly summarized the complexity in Jamaica when he acknowledged that countries such as South Africa or Jamaica are difficult to place within the concentric circles. In terms of the English-using populations and the functions of English, their situations are
not really complementary. So,
are rather complex. P 362. Compounding this complexity is the fact that JC is largely oral and students are not literate in it. In this situation, Jamaicans are taught English as a first language on the basis that the two languages are, lexically, similar. The result has been widespread problems. The close lexical similarity between JC and SE often poses problems for students whose receptive skills are higher than their productive skills, and these high receptive skills sometimes cause students to leave intact in writing Creole expressions that look/sound like English. See Craig, 1999, Nero, 2006. Given these reasons, students need to be able to distinguish JC from SE.
Okay, so expressions that look and sound like English. Okay. So we're doing the code meshing. Like difference between touching grass and smoking grass. um that's like hella cringe. I know, but think about it, right? Think about it. You know, a very small difference between these two expressions, like linguistically, you know? But in terms of like what you're actually doing, right? Very, very different. I mean, unless smoking grass is your touching grass, maybe. But I don't think that smoking grass is very, conducive to touching grass. You know, like touching grass is like get with it, get with reality, go outside, go the fuck outside and touch some fucking grass, right? But if you tell somebody to go outside and smoke that grass, you're probably telling them not to smoke weed in the house, right? Two very different things, two very different uses, but very similar scent. They both involve grass. So we have a dictionary, and the dictionary says we have touching grass, and touching grass is defined as internet slang phrase, which means go outside, get back to reality, get offline. And then we have below it smoking grass, smoking pot. These are not the same. They look the same, they sound the same. They're not the same. Right? Right.
SE if they are to understand when they are code meshing in terms of actually blending two different varieties. However, for this to be done on a large scale, the country and the speakers themselves need to recognize the legitimacy of JC. Although there is increasing valorization of JC, Jamaicans are still a far way from legitimizing it for more than passing/peripheral use in official circumstances, and legitimizing is crucial to linguistic and other forms of development. As Winford,
About what are you
1994,
doing now?
writes, there is growing consensus among Caribbeanists that recognition of the autonomy of Creole vernaculars as distinct systems from the lexically-related OFFI Chale languages is a prerequisite to addressing practical concerns such as reform of educational policy, improvement of literacy, and the instrumentalization of CREOL in wider areas of public life. p. 58. The second concern speaks to a related problem regarding speakers' inability to switch smoothly from one language to the next. This is the situation for weaker writers who are not able to distinguish between JC and SC. They tend to mix languages, but in ways that might not be effective in terms of readily communicating a message to an English-speaking audience. Rather than code switch, these students may code shift to Creole. See Crade, 1999, p. 42. Those Jamaican students who would be classified as weaker writers lack metalinguistic awareness of their languages and tend to produce naughty writing in English of the kind described by Irvine and Elsasser, 1988, elsewhere in the Caribbean.
Naughty writing. That sounds really familiar. Like that. Let's also let us also do a search. Because that sounds very familiar. A naughty writing issue. They had writing based on units of. Okay. Uh. Yeah. Is there anything in there? Is there anything in there that you want? Hmm. This is gonna be something weird. Oh no, this is nope. I'm looking for Irvine. Baba. No, you did. You're not that. Huh. Hmm. Nope. Not finding anything. I'm not finding anything. So, not really sure.
Caribbean. Nero, 1997, provides various accounts of a lack of metalinguistic awareness among Caribbean students and their resultant written products in U.S. classrooms. This lack of metalinguistic awareness sometimes leads to mixes such as Is English We Speaking, Morris, 1999, p1, or A Hinglish Me A Take, Pollard, 1998, p10. Code mixing of this kind is facilitated in Jamaica because of the close lexical relationship between Creole and English. As Jamaican educator Pollard says, the close lexical relationship serves to camouflage the differences of phonology, grammar and idiom, p10. Code mixing is often confusing to the English literacy as translingual practice, but copyright, pedagogical and socio-political implications. It's the Wild West out there. 121. Speaker, but the mixer, who is often a predominantly Creole speaker, is usually unaware of the mix and unaware that the mix is not English. The two examples, in which the interlocutor is declaring that he or she is speaking in English, raise questions about the nature/proportion of blends in a classroom situation. Young, 2009, recommends that the standard would remain dominant but be inflected by students' natural speech habits. In recommending the inclusion of other codes in SAE, Kanagaraja, 2006, indicates that code meshing involves the qualified use of alternate codes into the dominant discourse, p. 599. However, I wonder about the extent to which that proportion reflects what happens in everyday situations. If the mesh is studied in a hybrid composition, to what extent is it reflecting lived reality? And if it is natural, could it be seen to be reflecting ignorance of one of the codes? Why does this matter? Young, 2009, says that standard principles of communication still obtain in code meshed writing, pages 64 to 65. Kanagaraja, 2009,
Mesh is studied in a hybrid composition extent. Is it reflecting lived? Once again, I'm left with like I need more. I want
indicates that
more.
code meshing is work. For those unfamiliar with the intricacies of code meshing, it may seem like too much work. Kanagaraja writes that what enables multilinguals to communicate across difference is that they instantaneously construct the norms and conventions that will operate during their conversation, p. 18. He also explains that multilinguals don't depend on language as a pre-construct system that comes ready-made with forms and meanings. For them, meanings and grammars are always emergent, p. 18. The ahistorical nature of such language use suggests a need to be constantly constructing the norms of conversation. Indeed, Kanagaraja's 2000
Multilinguals don't depend on language as pre-constructed system. It comes already made with forms and meanings. For them, meaning and grammars are always emergent. So a grammar emerges, meaning emerges from the conversation rather than from the language itself. Hmm. Okay. Okay. Oh. Uh. Oh. Hey, we have a chat. um. Hello, and thanks for the first time chat. I will remember to eat and drink. I actually just ate dinner a bit ago, so I'm good. But I do have. Oh God, I have so many beverages. Anyway, okay, so where was I? This is a this is a this is a chewy one. So art. What is the point of art, right? Um, does art have meaning if we are not there to observe it? Does a tree falling in the forest make sound if no one is around to hear it, right? Oh, oh, cool. Well, I'm going to I mean, regular university for English. Literature again. English worked on my MA. Worked on my MA in English. Anyway, um so like the the meaning of the art is an experience that happens between the creator of the art and the viewer of the art, which is mitigated through the canvas. Uh, um, I guess I forget things as soon as I say them, so maybe I did, maybe I did. Um, but yeah, yeah. So like we have what a person is saying, right? The same old model I've mentioned before. We have what a person is saying, and then we have the wall of our experiences, our assumptions, our particular definitions and meanings for words, and then we have another person on the other side who is filtering everything that they're hearing is being filtered through that, right? So then we have the artist, we have the canvas, we have the viewer of the art, right? So we don't depend on language as pre-constructed systems. It comes ready made with forms and meanings. Rather, we see it as a filter that allows us to understand things. So meaning and grammar emerge from the conversation rather than are inherent to the conversation. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
2006. Conclusions indicate the need for
Okay.
deliberate,
Wait,
focused,
hold on.
skillful language.
Where were we? The historical nature of such language use suggests the need to be constantly constructing the norms of conversation. Oh, the need to be constantly constructing the norms of conversation. I mean, okay, and I'm not like a big debate person, but like, isn't one of the really important things about a debate like deciding on the fundamental definitions of the terms of the words that we're using? Like, if I'm going to debate somebody, we need to know. Well, I mean, first of all, we need to know what debate itself means, right? So we just constructed the norm of the conversation. If you think debate means like we both scream at each other and tear out our hair, and I think debate means we just have a friendly conversation, well, those are incompatible with one another. So first of all, we have to decide what the word debate means, and we don't have to we have to reach consensus on what the word debate means, right? We have to construct the norms of the conversation, and then we can have the conversation. Okay, so his conclusions indicate the need for deliberate, focused, skillful languaging rather than, you know, I pick a language and I'm using the language and, it's just words. No, we are being deliberate. We are being focused. We are being skillful with our language. Code meshing calls for multi-dialectalism, not monodialectalism. Ooh, I don't know what that means. Well, multi-dialecticalism. So, like, monodialectalism is me. I know one language, and I know one. I think I know. I think I know a few. Emo. I think I can. I think I've remembered a few emotes. A few Twitch emotes. So multi-dialectalism, not monodialectalism. Multilingual students have to not only master the dominant varieties of English, but also know how to bring in their preferred varieties in rhetorically strategic ways. Here, rhetorically strategic ways. There you go. Rhetoric again. Rhetoric again. These efforts are necessary because code meshing is a complex discursive act for our students, one that involves a polydialectal competence. Here, I'll highlight that. She, or not she, I don't know who this person is. The author, I mean. But they're gonna define it. But anyway, I just wanted to highlight it. Okay, so not talk now. What is wrong with me? Familiarity with standard varieties, expert use of local variants, and rhetorical strategies of switching. So, being able to know when to tell somebody to touch grass and when to tell somebody to smoke grass. Go touch grass outside versus go smoke grass outside. Um, they summarize the challenges when they say that a translingual approach to writing requires more, not less. More, not less from student writers. I mean, I think, yeah, I think it definitely does in terms of attention to style, register, syntax, and so on. It appears that the intellectual work and conscious languaging. I highlight that because I like that conscious languaging, being intentional. You know, intentionality. That's the big thing. That's the big thing that I really enjoy is intentionality. We're doing things on purpose for reason. um, Attending these proposals could strain weaker Jamaican Creole students that what they produce could look like two unacceptable examples given earlier. You gave me an unacceptable example earlier. I don't know if I was given two unacceptable answers.
Not less,
But
from
okay.
student writers, and
I trust you.
languaging attending these proposals could so strain weaker JC student literacy as translingual practice.
No.
Literacy as
Can we just read where I was trying to read?
Languaging attending these proposals could so strain weaker JC students that what they produce could look like the two unacceptable examples given earlier. The third concern, and perhaps...
Oh yeah, feel free to ask me to slow down the reading thing. We can't speed it up anymore. It's already as fast as it can go, and feel free to ask any questions. If you feel the need to ask questions, there are no bad questions. They're just bad answers. Although hopefully my answer will be okay.
Perhaps what bothers me the most about proposals for code meshing and translingual writing is the potential for ignoring sameness and difference while attempting to address difference, with naturalized double consciousness and transferred mainstreamers being among the ignored. What do I mean? Teachers have to be prepared to have students decline invitations to code mesh or disregard translingualism because these students live/operate in situations where languages are still treated as discrete systems. Jamaicans who are adept at code switching/shifting may have adopted what Villanueva, 1993, calls a posture. Literacy as translingual practice between communities.
Posture.
Communities and copyright Cop 122 Paul K. Matsuda Vivat Milson White. Of racelessness, p. 39, as practiced by some minority groups in the United States in their attempts to take on mainstream language and culture. Alternatively, they may lead what Young,
So assimilation?
2007, drawing on Dubois, calls a life of double consciousness, p. 128, but that I call naturalized double consciousness.
Hmm.
In the former situation, more aptly classlessness in Jamaica, students may neglect Jamaican language and culture, Creole, to adopt the dominant language and
Oh,
culture,
okay, so
English.
that's assimilation.
Young, 2007, criticizes the latter phenomenon which, I imagine, he would consider an unfortunate reality for many West Indians who use both standard and Creole languages. For individuals who are fluent in these different codes, their different language varieties serve mutually exclusive functions, the one slash some for speaking and private affairs, the other, s, for reading and writing. Indeed, double consciousness is the reality for many Jamaicans who reserve Creole for informal situations and English for formal affairs such as reading and writing. Operating. Thus, these Jamaicans think only in English if they are to speak or write for formal purposes. It is as if they operate an on/off language switch. Paislew, 2009. So, yes, I could.
They think only in English if they are to speak or write for formal purposes. Do you think in words or do you think in, I don't know, shapes, sensations? Hmm. It is if they operate an on-off language switch. I don't know, I don't think so much in words. Sometimes I do. Maybe sometimes I do. Hmm. Hmm.
Code mesh when speaking, but as I prepare to write anything, my thoughts shift to English as I perceive it. Young, 2007, would probably say these Jamaicans, and other Caribbean ERS, are performing a problem. He writes that because the obligation to perform is required and so pervasive, it has become a part of common sense when it shouldn't be. Even those who are most burdened are inclined to accept it. Pages 130 to 130.
Ooh, he writes because obligation to perform is so pervasive. Is required and so pervasive it has become part of common sense. I love that. I love that. Okay, so we made this like thing, right, for another class. And it's like the introduction to the MA, and they're like, make your altar. What it's like an in-class activity, your altar that like is all the things that are important to you and what you're bringing to your project, right? And so one of my little things, I made like an altar of sticky notes. Of course I did. And one of the things that I was kind of like, one of the sticky notes that I wrote down was like engaging with unreality. And I think a lot of people are probably gonna have like an immediate like spit take when they hear that, like QAnon, and like no, not QAnon. We're not engaging with that kind of unreality. No, common sense. What is common sense? Common sense is established reality, right? But at the same time, common sense is not necessarily based in reality, but rather experiences. That's why that one guy who got banned off of everything a while ago can be like, I believe that women are bad at driving, even though science shows us that women are not bad at driving, right? Because common sense is a form of unreality that people engage with. And they engage with it for varying reasons. Not all of them are to do with misogyny, right? Some of them are just to, you know, get by because you kind of got it, right? Um, so the obligation to perform is required and so pervasive it has become part of the common sense when it shouldn't be. Let's engage with unreality, right? Let's engage with translingualism. Oh my gosh, that I really like that. I really like that.
130 to 131. For young, then, Jamaicans who unquestioningly lead a life of double consciousness are performing the problem, p. 131. However, these doubly conscious Jamaicans, who would probably prefer to be considered as having double vision in Babha's 1994 terms, are high achievers who can use codes with dexterity and who, like Kanagaraja 2006, can and do edit out non-standard or other standards features from their English writing. Current proposals do not adequately address individuals who manifest these postures. On one level, these students are often ignored in discussions in the United States about foreign/international students because of the tendency to promote homogeneity, so all international students are simultaneously different from US students and the same in being grouped as all ESL and need to be taught.
Ooh, okay. So we have the difference in sameness. That I was like, what the hell does that mean? Okay. And being grouped as all English second language need to be taught separate. From L1. Okay, okay. So different people have, you know, different needs. Comes to learning things. But because of, the I mean, I would also say this is like a capitalism problem, because rather than like devoting our resources to teaching people in the way that they need to be taught, we devote all of our resources to teaching people in the most expedited way possible to like reach the standards as quickly as they can, right? And that kind of results in universities being turned into like little capitalism machines, you know? Maybe that was not such a the ending didn't land very well, but the point stands, right? We're fucking up education, we're fucking up meeting our students' needs by doing a capitalism in the university. And, theorizing the shit out of this is only so helpful because ultimately at the end of the day we still have a capitalism. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Taught separate from L1, English only, composition students, see critiques of these categories in Matsuda, 2006. What we forget sometimes, it seems, is that mainstream, in terms of class and not race, transfers from one country to another. So when we address mainstream US students, we ought to consider what I call the transferred mainstreamers who are expert standard language users from another country and studying in the United States. Transferred mainstream students often do not wish to change the status quo in any way, and, in the case of Jamaica, help to maintain the unequal relationship between Creole and English. When these students are sent into special English as a second language, ESL, classes, they may escape necessary discussions about language and power and respect for the legitimacy of all languages. On another level, these transferred mainstream students evoke concern. Literacy as translingual practice, between communities and classrooms, edited by Suresh Kanagaraja, Taylor and Francis Group, 2000, copyright 2013. Taylor and Francis Group. All
Yeah, I
pedagogical
got
and
it.
socio-political implications. It's the Wild West out there. 123. About how a translingual approach harbors the potential for eliminating difference when it helps mainstream US students. I wonder about this danger in light of the ways in which standard languages can seem to gobble up others. See similar concerns expressed by Rogers, 2009. Mainstream students, invited to engage in blending styles and codes, may not value the difference in minoritized varieties. Once blended into the dominant code, minoritized varieties previously considered as different, albeit subordinate, can be virtually forgotten. The other aspect of sameness and difference that I fear could get overlooked has to do with the
Shit.
specific linguistic and cultural groups the proposals
I'm
are meant to
fucked
assist
up.
the most. So, I'm wondering if Aline,
Okay, hold on. Other aspects of sameness and difference could get overlooked have to do with specific linguistics and linguistic and cultural groups the proposals are meant to assist most. Okay.
Aline, 1980, and other linguists are right that the African American situation is parallel to that of Creole-speaking communities, and the distinctiveness of the two varieties, BEV and WEV, is an historical and structural fact. P4. Could African Americans benefit from development of metalinguistic awareness of their vernacular in terms of what it is, what its features are, how it differs from other language varieties? That is, if Young, 2009,
Damn, how
continues to make
much
the
did I
argument
fuck
that the two
up?
language varieties are not all that different, could that hinder rather than promote African American students' development? Could an outsider ask, if the varieties are
New
not that
puzzle.
different, why then can the students not produce the standard dialect? Translingualism through code meshing at work. As stated, code meshing and other manifestations of translingualism require intellectual work. If JC-speaking students are allowed to code mesh, then
At work. Okay. At work. Like going to work, or like at work as in working, like in the world. Intellectual work. Okay, intellect. Allowed to code match, then educators have to be prepared for the serious, deliberate, even painful negotiation that they propose. Okay.
educators have to be prepared for the serious, deliberate, even painful, negotiation that Horner et al. 2011 propose. I demonstrate this through a property sign that was captured by Jamaican photographer Ray Chen and has been popularized on a Jamaican souvenir key ring, figure 11.1. The artifact bears words that appear part of standard English but have a different resonance in the specific context. Figure 11.1. Code meshing in a property
Oh,
sign.
here we go. Okay, this is don't walk here. A ras, cloth, cows, donkeys, goats, and other animals will be shot or pound by the not pound. That's not. Is that that's a U. That's a U. Or pound. So like, okay, what does that mean?
124. Paul K. Matsuda Vivat Milson White. This is a typical no trespassing sign, with the owner's signature expressed as an abbreviation of the proprietor. The details provided explain the nature of the problem. Various animals, which the average English speaker will recognize, have been walking in slash on slash through the property. This seems to be the reason for the details in don't walk here, with the sign writer either deliberately or unconsciously omitting the apostrophe in don't. 2. Over. Emphasize the seriousness of the interdiction. The writer includes the Jamaican expletive aras cloth. In a word, this expletive could convey the sense of absolutely as in absolutely no trespassing. However, that specific expletive as spelled here, to rhyme with say crass rather than with say pass, indexes identity. Spelled thus, it seems to be referring to a Rastafarian, with the implication being that either the property owner or the owner of the animals is of that orientation. If the spelling of the expletive is a
Mm.
genuine error, the explanation could be that neither property nor animal owner is Rastafarian and the sign writer slash property owner is simply livid. This latter explanation would be consistent with the use of the expletive, which often suggests that plain terms have failed the user but here conveys multiple realities. One of these realities is the use of JC merely
I have to. Where did it go? Where did it go? Plain terms have failed the user. The use of the expletive suggests that plain terms have failed the user. That's a hell of a way. That's a hell of a way. Oh my god. Just like think. Um I'm just thinking like, okay, let's put that into like Twitch terms, right? Like a person, a Twitch streamer is like playing a video game and like says it calls it, like they're playing like a multiplayer video game, right? And they like lose the game and they call the person they're playing with like some kind of slur, right? And then like the analytical, feedback we get is the use of the expletive, which often suggests that plain terms have failed the user, contains multiple realities. um. Oh, that's pretty fucking funny. Oh, that's pretty fucking funny. Okay. Okay. Um. Yeah.
merely for cursing because it is
That's
not legitimized to be used for other
hilarious.
purposes. The anger would explain why the property owner would seem to have directed a sign to animals that cannot read, but seem to have included humans in other animals. The sign also reveals how an expert language user, a mainstreamer, can manipulate language. The sign writer conceals various threats in the word notice and in the artifact. Readers are likely to feel that they know English terms such as walk but may not realize that the sign writer is also using it to mean grace. Rather than detect the seriousness in the warning, readers may experience alienation on encountering the expletive that mentions the term cloth, as do the other main Jamaican expletives, but is not self-explanatory. Other terms may puzzle readers. That the words and will be are minimized and underlined is probably an indication that shooting has already taken place. Animals have been shot in the past and will be shot in the future. Pound, as used, is highly ambiguous. Nothing indicates if the animals have been or will be sent to the public pound or impounded on the property or pounded, as in struck or crushed by beating. As used, pound seems to suggest blows will be inflicted on the animals. However, it could be that the author has simply abbreviated the local go a pound, meaning sent to the pound, or, worse, the abbreviation could mean stray animals will become the property owner's property. The ambiguity inherent in the warning suggests that the writer/property owner is an expert language user who has found ways to manipulate local language varieties and render unfamiliar the familiar or vice versa. Readers can imagine that far more can be deduced from this short notice which blends English and Jamaican Creole, even though they may not be able to determine if the language user acknowledges the power of all of the attendant language varieties in the blended text. Readers may even be concerned about literacy as translingual practice, between communities and classrooms, edited by Suresh Kanaga. Copyright, pedagogical and socio-political implications. It's the Wild West out there.
Oh my
125.
god.
Untranslatable terms or culture-specific inclusions in writing that require much negotiation for interpretation. As stated, JC students, allowed to code mesh, may include in writing English words that carry JC meanings. They may also include untranslatable and slash or ambiguous terms requiring much negotiation. In a context in which apparently English words have a different indexicality, attempts to decipher them could cause some readers to feel alienated. Given the negotiation required, I imagine Mutchery, Malamba, Myers, and Ndalawai, 1995, and their other African colleagues saying, these colleagues in the United States have a vastly different conception of time than colleagues in the rest of the world. All of this time
Ooh.
to deliberate over and negotiate differences in writing? Where do they find that time? Who pays for it? Even if US colleagues have the time and untranslatable terms or
Oh,
cultures to continue languaging.
ah. These colleagues in the United States have a vastly different conception of time than the colleagues in the rest of the world. All of this time to deliberate over and negotiate differences in writing. Where do they find that time? Who pays for it? Hmm. Hmm.
I hasten to note that Young,
Yeah,
2007,
no, no.
hints at limitations in code
It's
meshing by
not.
acknowledging that it will not solve all of the problems that
Oh
attend.
my god. Okay, so I guess I just have to read this. Even if U.S. colleagues have the time and other resources for that kind of deliberation, negotiation, I imagine individual Jamaican students in the U.S. classroom saying this program requires 4 years for completion. I can spare only two, at most three. As colorful as I may know, JC elements can make my academic writing. I really don't have the time and means to try to think in JC for academic purposes and then explain any JC elements in writing to a teacher or peers who may speak only one language. These imagined statements are preoccupations shared by other multilingual students, such as those about whom Mutiri et al. Write.
Attend
Okay,
African Americans education because
okay, hold on. Can we start here? Can we start reading
the
here?
linguistic issues are entangled with various.
No, we cannot. I hasten to note that Young hints at limitations in code meshing by acknowledging that it will not solve all the problems that attended African Americans' education because the linguistic issues are entangled with various racial problems.
Various racial problems with a long history, P8. And Kanagaraja,
Ooh.
2009, admits that though code meshing comes naturally/spontaneously to multilinguals, writing proficiency and rhetorical effectiveness are learned practices. Code meshing in writing can certainly be enhanced through sound teaching, P44. He emphasizes the need for multilingual students to be aware that some of their readers are not going to negotiate to the same extent and in the same manner as their fellow multilinguals do. They may also learn to build in more redundancy in their writing so that readers may recover meanings through multiple Afro dances, P. 45. However, besides these problems to which Young, 2007, and Kanagaraja, 2009, allude, there are those other concerns that I have raised about code meshing in classrooms and translingualism as an overriding philosophy efforts that valorize, yet not legitimize, minoritized languages, problems
Oh,
arising.
hold on. However, besides the problems, there are those other concerns I've raised about code meshing. Okay, we're about to finally find out what this means in classrooms and translingualism as an overriding philosophy. Okay, efforts that valorize yet not legitimize minoritized languages. Um, Oh, we're not addressing this because we're also addressing problems where you keep I just this is so frustrating. You keep listing all of these things and telling me that you're going to give me the answers, but you keep not giving me the answers. Just answer one thing at a time. Come on.
Arising from inability to code switch effectively, and the potential for ignoring sameness and difference while attempting to address difference in language use. Readers in some areas in the Americas may ask why we should care about the illustrated Jamaican situation. I'd say the experience of Jamaican students is shared by many other communities with pidgins, creoles, or devalued dialects in and beyond the Americas. And, thanks to the airways and electronic literacy as translingual practice, between communities and classrooms.
That's
Copyright
cool.
126 Paul K. Matsuda Vivat Milson White. Highways, we are likely to meet each other in many global contact zones. How will we interact across our language boundaries to negotiate our differences? How will we interact with both the weak writers and expert language users we encounter in classrooms in the Americas and elsewhere? The concerns raised appear to.
I mean, how do we interact with those people now? We just do it. We do. We just interact with them. Like I don't know what to tell you, man. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like we just interact with them. We every single day of our lives we go on Twitter. Maybe not all of us go on Twitter.com, but this is an example that some of us might do. We go on Twitter.com and we interact with a person who's like, "Sorry, I don't speak English very well, but this is the language everybody else is speaking, so I guess I have to speak it." And then we're like, "Oh yeah, I totally get that you don't speak English very well, but that you kind of have to speak it now because everybody's speaking it here. So you we're just gonna try to find a way to understand you. Like we are creative and understanding people, and we just we kind of just find creative and understanding ways to get around our language differences. Outside of the classroom, I don't see why we couldn't do that in the classroom. Like what?
Appear to be necessary considerations for recent proposals about languaging in translingual ways not only in U.S. writing classrooms but also in other contexts in which some students/groups are minoritized. References. Aline, M. 19.
Oh my god. That's it? What the hell? So we raise the concerns. We don't really go over the concerns. And then we just end it. They appear to be necessary considerations for recent proposals about languaging in translingual ways, not only in U.S. writing classrooms, but also in other contexts in which some students or groups are minoritized. Okay, well, I don't know, like I don't know, I don't fucking know, man. Let's go. It's the Wild West out there, a new linguistic frontier in U.S. college composition.
In
Okay.
recent years, language issues have come to receive unprecedented attention in U.S. college composition. Articles on language-related topics appear regularly on the pages of prominent journals in the field, and the number of edited volumes is also on the rise. Example: Horner, Liu, and Matsuda, 2010; Schroeder, Fox, and Bizzle, 2002; Smitherman and Villanueva, 2003; Young and Martinez, 2011. Many of the prestigious awards have been given to publications related to language issues, including the Richard Braddock Award, Kanagaraja, 2006; Horner and Trimber, 2002; Liu, 2004; Peterson, 2010.
Oh my god. Wait, look at this. Look at this. I just mm, mm, ugh. Chill the fuck out. We don't need to go that hard with the in-text citation. You can put it in a footnote. Oh god, look at that. There's another award. Another award of the annual meetings of the Conference on College Composition and Communication. Just call it C4. Just call it C4. Look, man, just call it C4. There are four C's. You just call it C4, and you say that it's explosive. Anyway, sessions related to language issues have regularly been elevated to the status of featured sessions. Okay, several key independent conferences that do not normally focus on language issues, including the Thomas Watson conference and that conference, have also dedicated their conferences to themes related to language issues. Increasingly, these conferences and sessions on language issues are well attended by both established members of the field as well as by relative newcomers who are eager to learn about the latest developments and new opportunities for research and teaching. It seems as if U.S. college composition has discovered a new frontier.
For research and teaching. It seems as if U.S. college composition has discovered a new frontier. I do not mean to suggest that language-related topics have not been discussed previously, far from it. In fact, there have been numerous attempts to address language issues throughout the relatively short history of U.S. college composition. Yet, the previous attempts at linguistic turns did not quite turn the field around. Many of them have been rejected or ignored by the mainstream discourse of U.S. college composition for various reasons. Matsuda, 2012. How is the literacy as translingual practice between communities and classroom?
Nope.
Copyright. It's the Wild West out there. 129. Current iteration of the linguistic turn different from any other that came before? Addressing this question will be my task in this chapter. The struggle away from language issues. The history of U.S. college composition through the 1980s can be characterized as a struggle to dissociate itself from language issues, marked by a series of attempts to integrate language issues immediately followed by strong oppositions. Connors, 2000b, explained the decline of sentence pedagogy in terms of anti-formalism and anti-scientism that had become pervasive in the field by the 1980s. In my own work,
Explained the decline of sentence pedagogy in terms of anti-formalism and anti-scientism become pervasive in the field in the 1980s. What does that mean? That's a list of words. Hmm.
I have argued that the general apathy toward language issues stems from the myth of linguistic homogeneity, the faulty assumption that students in the composition classrooms are always already proficient users of privileged varieties of English, and therefore they need no further attention to language issues. Thank you very much. Matsuda, 2006. The decline of interest in language issues is also a function of the disciplinary division of labor, where the sense of disciplinary identity limits the scope of professional activities. Matsuda, 1999. The disciplinary division continues to live strong. As a senior member of the field put it during a discussion session, I am a compositionist, not a linguist. Another important consideration is the increasing tendency to compartmentalize, which is one of the long-term consequences of professionalization. U.S. college composition in the early years was issue-driven.
Increasing tendency to compartmentalize. One of the long-term consequences.
Driven, highly interdisciplinary, and multimodal. The first-generation composition specialists were trained in various other disciplines, such as applied linguistics, communication, creative writing, education, linguistics, literary studies, psychology, and rhetoric. Although they brought different theoretical and methodological orientations, they came together to address a common concern: the teaching of composition by forming a multimodal discipline. Lauer, 1984. The relationship among these diverse perspectives, however, has never been completely harmonious and, as the field grew, the competition among methodological camps became even keener. North, 1987. Furthermore, as U.S. college composition became highly specialized and began to establish a field of its own with a growing number of doctoral programs, Con Nors, 2008, the professional literature grew exponentially, and the scope of the field also expanded well beyond the confines of first-year composition to include basic writing, writing across the curriculum, the writing center, professional and technical communication, writing in the disciplines, public discourses, and community literacy. As a result, it became increasingly difficult.
No, writing across the curriculum and writing center, like programs. I don't know if that's what they're referring to, or like if that helps. Oh boy. um.
Difficult for newcomers and even old-timers to stay abreast of all the developments. It is under these circumstances that language issues have come to be dismissed as
Well, I just want to say it became increasingly difficult for newcomers and even old timers to stay abreast of all the developments. Well, I don't know what to tell you, but that's kind of how I think that's kind of how life works. I think that's kind of like in general. I don't know that that's an issue so much as you would think it is.
both too mundane and too technical at the same time, taking away time and energy from ostensibly more interesting and exciting questions. There are, of course, some notable exceptions who have carved out a niche market for themselves and continue to pursue language-related research and scholarship. Yet, literacy as translingual, copyright 130 Paul K. Matsuda. Language research in U.S. college composition, even when it did not encounter strong oppositions, has been largely regarded as a special interest. In the meantime, a generation of senior composition scholars who came into the field with a strong background in language studies either have cut their losses and gone on, Connors, 2000b, p. 122, or are retiring if they have not retired already from the profession, MacDonald, 2005, p. 619, leaving a huge void in the knowledge of language issues in U.S. college composition. It is in the context of this knowledge desert that the current iteration of linguistic turn is taking place. The new linguistic frontier. Because the movement is so widespread, it is difficult to pinpoint a single exegesis or to date the exact beginning of the current linguistic turn. The synergy that powers the current linguistic turn stems from multiple exigencies and multiple lines of research and scholarship. It was in part stimulated by the continued effort to address the issue of language diversity for linguistic minority students in the United States as well as second language writers, including both resident and international students, example Harklaw, Losey, and Siegel, 1999, Matsuda, Cox, Jordan, and Ortmeyer Hooper, 2006.
Oh my god. Including both resident and international students. List of citations 2 lines long. The renewed interest in students' right to their own language. Acronym. List of citations 1 line long. Has contributed. Okay, the renewed interest in students' right to their own language has also contributed to the development. Okay, to the development. Another impetus was the globalization of U.S. college composition, which has made it undeniably clear that writing in the global context often entails language issues. Yet another, and arguably most important development that contributed to the current interest in language issues was an intellectual movement to see languages not as discrete entities but as situated, dynamic, and negotiated. A movement that has shifted the attention from the simplistic and highly politicized and racialized binary between assimilation and segregation to aspects of language that seem more complex and less mundane. Okay.
Dynamic and negotiated, a movement that has shifted the attention from the simplistic segregation to aspects of language that seemed more complex and less mundane. Circa 2000, Bizzle, 1999, 2000, began publishing on the notion of hybrid or mixed forms of academic writing as a growing phenomenon both in student writing and published writing. Importantly, Bizzle argued that these new forms of academic writing were not lesser forms of writing but a necessity in order to perform intellectual work that would not be possible with traditional forms of academic discourse. The idea intrigued many and stimulated a featured panel on this topic at CCCC as well as the publication in 2002 of an edited collection, Alt-Dis, Alternative Discourses in the Academy, Schroeder et al., 2002.
Okay.
Granted, the collection was exploratory in nature, and contributions to the book seemed to take the discussion in vastly different directions. Yet, the diverse perspectives represented in the collection proved to be helpful in articulating a wide range of issues surrounding the notion, which I attempted to synthesize in the concluding chapter. Literacy as translingual practice, between communities and classrooms. Copyright, it's the Wild West out there 131. Although all this was inspired at least in part by Sertel, the discussion focused more on philosophical issues rather than issues of language, which was one of the reasons I was asked to write the final response chapter from the perspective of someone who is deeply rooted in both writing studies and language studies. Upon reading my response chapter, Horner and Liu approached me about the possibility of collaborating on a series of projects to bring language issues to the forefront of U.S. college composition. The collaboration led to several featured sessions at CCCC, a special issue of College English, and an edited volume, Horner et al., 2010. The current movement to integrate language issues into the mainstream discourse of U.S. college composition is a result of the confluence of these and other new and innovative language scholarship. This movement is distinct from its predecessors in a number of ways. One of the most important differences is that the current movement is not just being advocated by a small group of enthusiastic specialists who have a strong background in language studies. Rather, it seems to be engaging the entire field, both junior and senior members, including those who have primary intellectual interests and training in topics other than language issues. While some members will remain indifferent or even resist integrating language issues into their work, the field as a whole seems to be moving toward a better understanding of how language and writing intersect with various aspects of U.S. college composition. Another important difference is that it is a proactive, rather than reactive, movement. Unlike many of the linguistic turns of the past, this movement is not a direct response to a single demographic change. This is not to suggest that the demographic changes have stabilized. On the contrary, the linguistic diversity continues to intensify as U.S. institutions of higher education, devastated by economic crises and having depleted local would-be student population, try to make ends meet by recruiting students from other
U.S. institutions of higher education devastated by economic crisis and having depleted local would-be student population try to make ends meet by recruiting students from other countries who would pay higher tuition and who would not qualify for student loans or most forms of financial aid. Mm, it's almost like making education very expensive, means that less people try to get an education. Mm. And also, that's very exploitative. That's the other thing. Recruiting students who would pay higher tuition and who would not qualify for student loans, incredibly exploitative. That did not highlight very well, but that's just pretend in your brain that I highlighted that because that's really fucked up.
other countries who would pay higher tuition and who would not qualify for student loans or most forms of financial aid. In fact, we are in the middle of another wave of demographic change with the influx of international students from China. While these changes are no doubt contributing factors, they could not be the main impetus because the current rise of interest in language issues seems to have started long before anyone had anticipated the drastic changes in the linguistic profile of college students we have been experiencing in the last few years. What is probably the most significant difference, however, is that the current linguistic turn is motivated by a new research agenda situated in the intellectual context of U.S. college composition. That is, the issue of language differences is no longer seen as mundane drudgery that took time away from other useful pedagogical concerns or interesting intellectual pursuits, rather, it has joined the ranks of new intellectual undertakings worthy of attention from all U.S. college position scholars. And since the topic opened up a new frontier in the knowledge desert, there are plenty of opportunities to stake a claim even for those who have had little experience with language. The word is out, go west and strike it rich. Literacy as translingual practice, between communities and classrooms, edited by Suresh, copyright 132 Paul K. Matsuda. Future challenges, it's the Wild West out there. One of the major problems of any popular movement is the tendency to despise the old and valorize the new, as was the case with the writing process movement and, more recently, the rise of post-process, Matsuda, 2003. Within the current language movement, it has become fashionable to critique the traditional diglossia between privileged varieties of English and other language varieties. The diglose SIA in the academy has become the villain to be replaced with the new hero, a translingual approach to writing, which is associated with various terms, including hybrid discourses, alternative discourses, world Englishes, code meshing, translingual writing, and the like. These concepts are exciting to many because they suggest new possibilities for reimagining issues of language differences in U.S. college composition. At the same time, the exclusive focus on a single aspect of language issues can undermine the real need for some language learners to learn a new language, Matsuda, 2006, or the need for non-dominant languages to be validated or left alone, Lyons, 2010. A broader, more balanced framework for conceptualizing language.
The need for non-dominant languages to be validated or left alone. Hmm. Hmm. I mean, validated, right? The Bacon dictionary reference. Left alone, you know, not appropriated. But at the same time, I feel like I feel like encouraging your students to speak however they feel comfortable, however they choose, right? Hmm. I don't know about this. Broader, more balanced framework conceptualizing language is needed.
Language is therefore needed.
Hmm.
While the enthusiasm for the new approach to language issues is necessary in order for the movement to take off and make an impact on the field as a whole, it also needs to be balanced with critical reflections in order for the movement to become sustainable. What concerns me about the current state of affairs is that the terms and concepts associated with the new linguistic turn have become so valorized that scholars
Turns me. Scholars are inhibited from critiquing these ideas lest they appear old fashioned or ideologically suspect. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That is valid. That is valid. That is something that we're using valorized again. I was in the other text too. That's interesting. I don't know what to think about it. Furthermore, many members of the field seem eager to promote these valorized ideas in their scholarship and teaching. But they often ask, "Yeah, see, like it's one of those things where like I understand where you're coming from, but I'm going to need a specific example so that I know that you're not doing what you say that I shouldn't think that you're doing." Like if you want me to believe that you're not old fashioned and ideologically suspect, I'm gonna need an exam. I want a specific example.
valorized that scholars are inhibited from literacy as translingual practice, valorized that scholars are inhibited from often ask how these concepts can be used in their work without also considering whether, when, and why they should be used. Bean et al. 2003. The tendency to valorize language differences is problematic also because it can end up feeding the naive, feel-good liberalism. You are okay as long as you join everyone in valorizing these terms. Even worse, the hunt for novel.
Okay. You are okay as long as you join everyone in valorizing these. What is. Okay, so that. Okay. So now I'm thinking like the CIA lady ad. How she's like she's a cisgender millennial with like generalized anxiety, and like sure she works for the CIA, but like that's totally fine because she's a cisgender millennial with anxiety disorder. She's a, she's a what is it that was the meme, a neurodivergent minor, neurodivergent and a minor. Um, So, as long as you say you're neurodivergent and a minor, you're okay. Hunt for novel examples of language and differences can turn the whole discussion into a linguistic freak show. I don't know if that's. I mean, okay, are we really gonna say that when I say touch grass versus smoking grass, right? Are we really gonna say that that's a linguistic freak show? I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. Language. The example of the sign, was that a linguistic freak show? I don't think that's fair. Language differences or lack thereof are not inherently good or bad, they just happen. And I think translingualism is like acknowledging that they happen and saying that it's okay and that we need to be critical of what we're saying so that we of what each other is saying so that we can better understand each other. While it's important to destigmatize language differences, okay, that's what I just said. Valorizing these differences without substantive arguments makes the whole movement vulnerable to criticism. Okay, well, using defund the police movement vulnerable to criticism, but that doesn't mean we don't say defund the police. It means we, explain what we mean when we say defund the police, and could lead to its eventual dismissal. It seems the more reflexivity is called for as we continue to pursue these issues. Okay. I mean, that's not a bad thing, but once again, like, what? Another problem is related to the knowledge desert that resulted from the stigmatization of earlier discussions of language issues. Okay, so there's not a lot of scholarship on a thing, so it's kind of dangerous to produce scholarship about the thing now. As Connors have pointed out, the historical struggle to integrate language issues has left a void in U.S. college composition, and the field has not developed a well informed and socially shared theoretical framework for discussing language issues. Okay. Okay, so we have to develop one then, right? I'm just highlighting this whole entire page. This is bad. I mean, this is not bad, but it's bad that I am highlighting the whole entire page. In order to fill the knowledge gap, composition theorists have attempted to borrow key terms and concepts from other disciplinary contexts. I mean, that's an example of translingualism right there. In the process, sometimes create an incongruent representation of those terms and concepts. Okay, yeah, once again, that's translingualism. That happens all the fucking time. That is literally what translingualism is. That's what translingualism is. We use different things in different ways all the fucking time. Imagine if somebody got all pissed off because I was like, or the grass, back to the grass situation, somebody gets pissed off because somebody says grass and means pot. I'm sure that happened at some point in time. Somebody was like, "How dare you talk about grass and you don't use grass to mean pot? Grass is the green stuff that grows on the lawn. You can't do that. You're creating an incongruent representation of what my lawn is." Okay, that's what translingualism is. Language changes over time. I don't really know what to think about this. Delving into a new intellectual territory as we develop ways of understanding and discussing language issues can at least initially create confusion because the availability of knowledgeable peers is limited, and the disciplinary dialect, the process of peer evaluation that provides checks and balances, may not function properly. Okay, so we haven't developed good gatekeeping strategies yet. Oh my god, it keeps getting worse. What is this? Oh my god, actually this science is bad because we don't have any gatekeepers yet. Like, imagine if the Catholic Church, instead of like torturing Galileo to get him to admit that like the Earth, or no, the sun revolved around the Earth, instead of that they were like, well, actually, we don't have like a disciplinary dialectic and process of peer evaluation that provides checks and balances to what you say. So you are invalid. Oh boy. Okay, this is fun. I'm having a little bit of fun here.
Code switching or code meshing. A terminological mishmash. A prime example of lawlessness in the linguistic frontier of U.S. college composition and the wider community of English education is the debate surrounding the terms code switching and code meshing. In addressing the
Oh
issue
my
of language
god.
diversity in U.S. K-6 schools, Wheeler and Swords, 2004, used the term code switching, spelled as one word. With it, they made the age-old point that the language spoken by many African American students is not an imperfect attempt at using the dominant variety of English but a different code, and that the students can code switch between the two varieties of English based on the situational context of communication, i.e., using the privileged variety of English in the classroom and using their own variety of English at home. To describe the coexistence of two separate codes, a more appropriate term would have been diglossia, Ferguson.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, this is such nerd shit. Oh my god. To describe the coexistence of two separate codes, a more appropriate term would have been diglossia. Like pulling out my dictionary. Oh my Oh my god, ostensibly, they borrowed a cluster of notions, including code switching, from applied linguistics. However, they did not specify which applied linguists they were borrowing from, nor did they acknowledge that most applied linguistics would not use the term as they did. Oh my god, you are. This is kind of insufferable. This is like, and like I look. This is a wonderful, wonderful example of something, and we're not talking like in the context of these two articles. We're talking in the context of all of the papers that we have been reading, right? This is a wonderful, wonderful example of like discourse, right? Um, and it really it just very wonderfully, just mimics the kind of things that I've been like talking about like in the past. it's always it's always like something I've seen on Twitter or something I've watched on YouTube, and then like I'm like, hey, I saw that on YouTube this week. But I was talking like the other day about YouTubers, like long form video essayists will make call outs for like the debate bros, or like this content creator, that content creator, as a way of like getting like, I mean, and people will say like getting views, getting follows, getting clicks, getting all of that, right? But really, it's just breaking the bar for entry, the gate kept bar for entry so that you can make it into the conversation, right? Like this is the social interaction that is happening when somebody makes a call out video. You're like, I want to be involved in the conversation. I want to have a place in the conversation. So I'm going to pick the biggest, loudest, angriest person in the yard. And I'm going to walk right up to them and beat the shit out of them. And all of a sudden, everybody respects me, right? That's what's happening. That is the social interaction of call out posts. Um, yeah, yeah, I stand by that 1,000%. That is what that is. And so this happens, of course. This happens in academia all the time. Where a scholar will write a paper and they will become the scholar, and then they define the field and they do the gatekeeping, and then somebody else comes along and they're like, actually, you are wrong. And everybody's like, oh my God, there's a new person in the conversation. Then somebody else comes along, actually, you both are wrong. Oh my God, there's a new person in the conversation. Third person comes along. Was this a third person or a fourth person? I don't know. There's another person, and they're like, actually, all of you were wrong, except some of you kind of maybe had a good idea. So let's go back to the first guy who actually had the good idea. And then, 10 more people come in, and we're all just like waving our fingers around, like, one of you has to be right or have some kind of point. But in this point, we're so divorced from the actual points that we're trying to make that it's just a big dick waving session where we're all like waving our dicks around, even though some of us don't even have them. And we're like, ah, yeah, I'm the right one, and I'm the right one. And it's like, what are you even doing? Yeah, yeah, that's what this is. This. Um, and I think I think, and this is my take. This is my take on the call out shit, right? Um, it is a sign of a healthy discourse. But also the people, the stands need to shut the fuck up. It is a sign of a healthy discourse, and the stands need to stop dogpiling people. Um, like just imagine, and I bet there were like stands. I bet there's stands for like academics out there. But like you write the paper, right, and you publish the paper, and then somebody else comes out and like writes the paper and publishes your paper, and then all the little stands come and they're like, we're gonna attack you because you wrote that ostensibly they borrowed a cluster of notions, including code switching from applied linguistics. However, they did not specify which applied linguistics they were borrowing from, nor did they acknowledge that most applied linguistics would not use the term as they did. Oh, it just But yeah, then all of the little, little stands, the stand accounts come in and they're like, excuse me, did you realize that translingual involves using words in different ways and those words begin to take on new meanings when used in different contexts? Oh god, I'm in the stand right now. Anyway, this is beautiful. I just it's beautiful. Anyway, it's unfortunate that neither the manuscript reviewers nor the journal editor caught the incongruity in Wheeler and Sword's use of the term code switching. This incongruous definition was further Christ, prom, promul, promulgated. Promulgated. Let's find out what promulgated means. Promote or make widely known. Oh God! They're platforming. They're platforming an inappropriate definition. I'm laughing so hard I might cry. They're platforming a wrong definition of the word term, so code switching. So, this is so stupid. Oh boy. Through their 2006 book, Code Switching, Teaching Standard English in Urban Classrooms, this time with a hyphen. This time with a hyphen. It's so funny. This time with a hyphen. Hold on, I need my little hank. I need to clutch my wringing my hands because they promulgated. Oh my god. Oh boy. Anyway, I mean, look. We tend to think that like academics are like really smart people who have like studied like really smart people things, but really we're just a bunch of dipshits like the rest of everyone else. Huh? Anyway, published by the National Council of Teachers of English, Wheeler also conducts workshops on this notion. Oh God, here we go. This is they're making money off of it, so they're a grifter. This is the incongruous definition became quite popular. Oh, did it really? Did that happen through sedimentation? Also gaining currency among US college composition specialists, yet Wheeler's idea quickly became a target of criticism, bringing down the term code switching along with it. Okay, how did that happen? In his 2007 book, Young critiqued the notion of code switching as defined by Wheeler and Swords, which stipulated that home and school languages should be completely separated. Okay? Oh, here we go. Rather than citing Wheeler and Swords, though, however, he characterized the term as a popular concept and approach to language instruction. Oh, that's so fucking shady! What a little bitch. This is the vague post. This is the vague post. Oh, this is fabulous. Like catnip. Okay, and attributed it to many well-meaning literacy educators who do not wish to impose the burden of racial performance when teaching literacy to black students. Oh. Hmm. Then, his preferred alternative, he proposed the term code meshing, which he explained was based on what linguists have called code mixing, combined dialects, styles, and registers. It's important to point out, however, that many applied linguists use the term code mixing interchangeably with code switching because language it changes how we use it, which is more or less the same idea as code meshing. Language changes based on how we use it. To his credit, Young later identified Wheelers and Swords books as the source of the term code switching. At the Watson Conference, however, few of the conference participants, including Young, however, few of the conference participants, including Young, were aware of the idiosyncrasy of Wheeler and Swords definition. Oh God! Oh, fucking The incongruity remained virtually unnoticed until it was pointed out during the discussion session at the end of the conference. Cannot cannot Kanagara Kanagarata. Aha. Nagara? Nagara. I don't know. I don't actually know how to say that name. Um. So yeah. Anybody knows? Also, he uses the term code switching in reference to separation of code, so he attributes the same idiosyncratic definition to Peter Elbow. Elbow? As someone who straddles between the disciplinary worlds, view as college composition and applied linguists, however, Kanagaraha is aware of the idiosyncrasy as he wrote, Note also that some radical scholars have used the term code switching broadly to signify the same practice that I call code meshing here. And he went on to reify the incongruous definition of code switching by upholding the distinction between code switching and code meshing. So he pointed the thing out, but he reified. So reified isn't like reify. I think reify is like he like supported it. He was make something abstract. Oh, make something abstract more concrete or real. So yeah, he like he. Let's see. Do we have like another word for reify? Concretize, hypostasize, illustrate, events, stand for. Yeah. So he made it he made it solid by upholding the distinction between code switching and code meshing. So unfortunately, it appears that some radical scholars, some radical scholars. Oh boy, it's look, man. Okay, everything everywhere is exactly the same as everything everywhere else. There's no difference between anything in any one place, anything in any other given place. It's all the same. Everything is happening, and it is all the same, and it's happening all at once. Yeah, it's all the same. Some things are different, but everything is the same. Anyway, unfortunately, appears that this incongruent usage is also beginning to make its way back to applied linguistics. During the discussion at the end of 2009 Watson Conference, many participants seemed eager to embrace the term code meshing to apply it to their teaching. Yet few of the participants were able to define the term or explain what it meant to bring code meshing into the classroom. Oh boy. Like, oh boy. This is fun. We're having fun here. I think I'm having fun. Oh boy. There was much confusion about what code meshing was, what it looked like in practice, how it was similar to than other similar terms, such as code switching and code mixing. The conversation went on without a consistent shared understanding of these key concepts. Oh. 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 Oh, did it though? Are you sure? Or did you just not have a consistent shared understanding? Hmm. 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 The only sentiment that many seemed to share was this: code meshing good, code switching bad. Okay, here we go. Here we go. You finally made a good point. You finally made a good point. Finally made a good point. Code meshing good, code switching bad. Now, I would say that these points are good based on conditions. Forced code meshing good. Forced code switching bad. Right? Right? Right. Or not, no. Forced code meshing is not good, and forced code switching is bad. Yeah. No, but yeah, okay. So it's yeah. Forced code meshing is not good, and forced code switching is not bad. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, without those things, without stating those things, without the forcing, right? Without the forcing. without making that distinction, that is valorization of code switching versus code meshing. And in this case, we would be valorizing code meshing. So in other texts, we see situations where statements that authors have made, right? Situations where they say, we shouldn't be forcing our students to code mesh just because we think that code meshing itself is valuable. We allow students to code mesh when they feel it is appropriate, when they feel that it's useful. We let students who choose to code switch do that because that's what feels right to them. We allow different students have different needs. So we allow the students to decide their own needs, their own rhetoric, rather than expecting them to perform rhetoric. So yeah, this is where I do agree. This is where I do agree with this author. Like, we went through a lot of bullshit to get to one good point. To undermine the efforts of even those who are defining these terms carefully in their own work. The situation seems to be improving somewhat as a result of a series of conversations at various conferences over the last few years. By that time, these authors and others come to explicitly acknowledge these terminological problems. In this discussion, I have focused on the use of the terms code switching and code meshing in U.S. college composition scholarship as a way of okay, maybe we don't agree on that point. I think we agree on that point in different ways. That's what I'm gonna say. Um, the lack of a community and of knowledgeable peers who can ensure the intellectual accountability. Gatekeeping. The lack of gatekeeping. This author is like, I want some gaslighting, some girl bossing, and some gatekeeping, and I want it now. I want it all. I want it now. I don't know why that happened, but it had to. Yet I do not mean to suggest the term code meshing should be banned, although I do believe that incongruous use of the term code switching ought to be stopped. Shut up! Oh my god. As I mentioned in response to Young's code meshing performance, the thing, code meshing can be considered as code switching with attitude, code switching in implied linguistics sense, not wheelers and sort. What do you think that code switching means in an applied linguistic sense? It means exactly that. I have taken applied linguistics. We're gonna look it up. Paste and go. Practice of alternating between two or more languages or varieties of language and conversation. Alternate between two or more languages and varieties of language and conversation. Adjusting one's style of speech, appearance, behavior, and expression in ways that will optimize the comfort. Okay, yeah. 5 reasons why people code switch. NPR. I think we're here. I don't know which tab this is. Monday, March. Want to code switch our new blog covering race. A lizard brain stick. I prefer rat brains. I have a rat brain. People sent us hundreds of stories illustrating the many ways we code switch and the many reasons for doing it. 5 of those motivation came up and up again and again in the stories we read. Rat brains. I don't know what that. I don't know how to read. We want to fit in. We want to get something. We want to say something in secret. It helps us convey a thought. Okay, so yeah, we're changing language based on rhetorical choices. We're making rhetorical choices about how we use language. I don't understand. I don't understand. Hold on, let's change it back. Oh, God. Fine, it's fine now. Okay, so code switching in applied linguistic sense Like this is not. I don't know why this author is like so up in arms about code switching. Like I don't think they've they've not defined this word. That's my problem with. I don't think that they have defined this word. How they think it's supposed to be used. Like am I wrong? What page are we on? Just turn the reader off. Oh shit, it doesn't say what page we're on. Oh god. Okay, 134. We're on 134. Okay. Tendency to despise the old and valorize the new. Uh hmm, mm, okay, so they sometimes create incongruent representation, code switching or code meshing. Okay. Prime example of lawlessness, the need for gatekeeping, in the linguistic frontier of U.S. college composition and the wider community of English education is the debate surrounding the terms code switching and code meshing. Okay, tell me what these terms what you think these terms mean. Tell me what you think these terms mean. Tell me what you think these terms mean. In addressing the issue of language diversity in schools, they use the term code switching. The language is not an imperfect attempt but a different code. Okay? Okay. And that students can code switch between two varieties of English based on the situational context of communication. Based on the situational context of communication. That's what we just read in that other thing. That's what we just read in that other thing. So unless they're both wrong. Coexistence of two separate codes. Now in the previous text we just read, they said that that's what happens in with Jamaican Creole. But that's not actually diglossia. Now, these aren't the same authors. These are not the same authors. But we're both critiquing translingualism and code switching, right? Diglossia. Let's just let's for the sake of fucking shit up and finding out. Code switching. Diglossia versus code switching. The difference is that code switching occurs as a byproduct of comfortable communication, while diglossia reflects culture and class. Okay. Diglossias are not bad, they're simply an incarnation of intangible spheres of culture or social structure that appear to be mutually exclusive. It's a different word for the exact same thing. So this person is mad that they are using code switching because if they use code switching, it applies that what they're doing is not bad. I need to get closer to the mic for this. I'm just gonna. Okay. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? Are you listening? I did not prepare for that. just just why? 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 Got two words that mean exactly the same thing. Basically. They're close enough to the exact same definition. But we are just you're breaking them down to such finite components that we pretend that these two words, which basically mean the same thing and can pretty much be used interchangeably, are like radically different. Now, this is the opposite. Oh no, no, this is the exact same thing. This is no, this is the opposite. This is the opposite. This is the opposite of the touching grass versus the smoking grass. Remember, touching grass, smoking grass, very similar, radically different meanings. Code switching, diglossia, very different words, very similar meanings. What the fuck? That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. You know, what the fuck? Why? Okay. Implied linguistic sense, not Wheeler and Swords. It is valuable insofar as it highlights the active and attentive use of mixing, as long as the users of the term are careful about defining the term clearly in a nuanced way. Reflecting the awareness that it is more or less synonymous with code switching and code mixing, the term might continue to serve a useful purpose, at least for the time being. What are we talking about again? I forget. As I mentioned, response to the code meshing performance. Code meshing can be considered the same as code switching with attitude. No, it can't. It's not. That's wrong. You're just wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Am I wrong? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. I think I'm not wrong. I tend to think I'm not wrong. But at the same time, I might be wrong. So take all of this with a grain of salt. But I think that this person is wrong. The debate over the term code mixing is the only example out of many terminological and conceptual confusions. Okay, so that means you're not going to go into any of the other ones, right? Valorizations that are happening in the discussion of language issues in US college composition, there's still a lot of work to be done. How then do we bring order to the wild west of language scholarship in the US composition? I am not, of course, arguing that we should impose rigid rules from the old world to govern the dynamics of a new field of knowledge. I mean, you really are excited about that gatekeeping. So I don't know that, imposing rigid rules is something that you're, categorically opposed to. Like, come the fuck on, bruh. Come the fuck on. Definitions of terms do shift even within the same field. In fact, oh my god! I just spent like an hour saying that. You could have started with that. You could have started with that. You could have started with that. In fact, there are some variations in the definition of code switching. Even among the I have to mute. I have to mute for a moment. Okay. Even among applied linguistics, but does that not mean that does not mean it's a free for all? Shut up! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! I'm gonna pulling out my hair. I need to calm down. I need to calm down because I'm gonna have some kind of like brain aneurysm or something. Not healthy. I'm shouting way too much. I'm gonna have like sore throat tomorrow in class. This is not gonna be fun. Oh boy. In interdisciplinary scholarly activities where perspectives from various disciplinary backgrounds come together and explore what a new territory has to offer, it is important to define terms carefully, reflecting an awareness of the origin and history of the terms as well as its variations. I hate you. In coining new terms or proposing a new concept, it's important to survey the new territory to make sure that the land has not been previously inhabited by other people. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy, that is sussy. That is fucking sussy language. You, my friend, are fucking sussy. You are. I mean, the not we're like let's just start on like the premise of the Wild West, and now we're talking. We're making like the comparison to like of like academia, right? A colonizing force, and not just like academia, but like gatekeeping in academia. Wow. Yikes. Yikes. Have already been discussed in applied linguists. Like, you are just mad. You are just mad that people are like, taking shit from your little buddy in applied linguistics, aren't you? We also need to take care not to overgeneralize or misrepresent ideas and practices in other fields. Shut up. That's like bad. That's probably I mean, okay, look. I'm having a very heated in the moment reaction to this text, and I will probably come back to it at a later time with a much more leveled head and fair reaction. But in this moment, I'm gonna say what I feel the need to say. This is my first react, my first reaction. Okay, I'm gonna say what I need to say the first time around. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. Not to overgeneralize. And the thing is, like, what have you been doing? What have you been doing? But overgeneralizing how people are using code switching and code meshing and code mixing. You are doing the thing that you want people to not do in an attempt to give people a reason why they should not do the thing that you are doing. As an attempt to represent the perspectives of other disciplines, many conference organizers have chosen to invite researchers from language related fields and from other countries to attend US based composition conferences as featured speakers and invited panel members. We've just like totally given up on the screen reader. Oh, 23 out of 34. So, like, we're more than halfway through. Like 10ish pages left. Um, While this is a good start, it is often not sufficient in addressing the knowledge gap when U.S. college composition specialists present incongruent views of language-related concepts at these conferences. Language specialists in the audience tend to not challenge those questionable practices directly. Oh boy! Oh boy! What is this? What is this? Instead, they often look down uncomfortably out of politeness or make eye contact with with each other to make sure they're not the only ones who are puzzled. What is this? What is this? What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? Oh God, I don't want to be one. After one of the language focused conferences organized by a U.S. college composition specialist, an applied linguist who had been invited to the event told me she felt awkward speaking up to correct people because language specialists were disciplinary outsiders who were invited to someone else's party. Oh boy. On another occasion, one of the international participants mentioned to me that he was not able to relate to the conversation. He and others did not understand why U.S. participants were so excited about what seemed like business as usual to international participants while not showing any interest in what they thought were important issues. I don't know, man. Maybe because the U.S. has its own shit going on in regards to composition, something which we read about in another paper. I don't know. While efforts to increase cross disciplinary collaborations need to continue, we need to keep in mind that bringing experts from outside does not automatically make the conversation richer or more informed. The change also needs to happen from within. We need more gatekeeping. Specifically, there needs to be much more concerted effort to develop a more robust understanding of language scholarship, both within and with outside US college composition. It goes without saying that attempts to borrow or critique insights. Ooh, so this is an interesting example of what we call subtext. And the subtext here is that this is a part of a larger conversation. And this person is big mad. Big mad. Ooh, or critique. Look at the long dash. Look at the the passive aggressive long dash. Oh, mm. Oh my god, that goes so hard. That goes so like this author did not. This author was like, I can go hard or I can go home, and they were like, I ain't going home, baby. Oh boy. Attempts to borrow or critique insights from another disciplinary context should be preceded by efforts to become thoroughly familiar with the discussion of key concepts and issues as they are being discussed in other disciplinary contexts. It would also be a good idea to develop a broad understanding of language related disciplines, their assumptions, and their modi operandi. Okay. Graduate students might consider taking courses in applied linguistics such as discourse analysis, first and second language acquisition, pedagogical grammar, second language writing, social linguistics, and world Englishes. Another, I mean, you know, I'm pretty sure that the whole argument, the whole translingual argument is that like everybody should be doing that. I mean, another way to learn about recent ideas and developments in language related fields is to attend conferences populated by language specialists such as the American Association for Applied Linguistics, International Association for World English, Symposium on Second Language Writing, Second Language Research Forum, and teachers of English to speakers of other languages, collaborating with colleagues. Or at least starting a conversation with them is also a useful way of understanding ideas and perspectives from other fields. As if people don't do that though. Like, what are you doing? What? Finally, I would like to conclude by encouraging U.S. college composition specialists to start learning additional languages. I'm not just talking about developing. Okay, this is like actually good advice. Reading knowledge just enough to translate literary passages into English, which is hopelessly outdated notion. Which is a hopelessly outdated notion of language learning from the early part of the 20th century. Instead, just because, dramatic reading value. Instead, I hope more U.S. college composition scholars will try to develop advanced proficiency in multiple languages, both spoken and written, to understand firsthand what it's like to live with the multilingual reality. Okay, here's another one where I can argue with you on that because we already live in a multilingual reality because I speak the language of fucking poggers. Like we all speak, you know, many different. Oh, acknowledgments, references. We invite students to write in their home hybrid academic discourses, writing and the issue of correctness or what to do with mixed forms of academic discourse, and committee on C4 language statement. Students write to their own language. Place the professionalization of composition. Okay, we're gonna scroll through all of these. Myth of linguistic homogeneity. Okay, so you know exactly what it means, what translingual means. I don't know, maybe that's not what I'm thinking about. Maybe that's not what I think it is. Oh god. Oh my god. Okay, so they cited a lot. One, two. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh boy, they got a bone to pick with this person. Oh, wait, unless is this the same person? Maybe they're not. Maybe this is the same person. Let's find out. I mean, you wouldn't cite yourself, would you? Cite yourself. Oh, okay, okay. So they are cite. My man is literally citing himself. My man is citing himself. My man is citing. Can we take a moment here? Can we take a moment here? My guy cited himself in this thing he wrote 4 times. 4 times? Was it 4 times? Was it 4 times? I just I. Ooh. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. One. Okay, this is a different. Oh no, no, he's in there. He's in there. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Okay. But he was in other ones too. I'm pretty sure he was in other ones too. 7 times. 7 times. So we're starting with 7, right? We're starting with 7. We're gonna go back up to the top. 8. My man cited himself 9 times. 9 times. My guy cited himself 9 times. I'm gonna say that one more time, and then we're gonna move on to the next paper. My guy cited himself in a paper that was probably less than 10 pages. 9 times. Or not even like 9 times. No, more than 9 times, because he used nine different texts. I just, a smarmy little shit. Keep code meshing. Since coining the neologism code meshing in my article, your average, I'm not going to say that word, and offering there a fledgling definition. Okay. In my article. Okay, this is the one that the other guy is. This is what this guy was respond is. Here we have a conversation. Okay, we are having a conversation here. Major problems, and then cites himself. Jesus Christ. Okay. We're looking for young. We're looking for young. Oh no, he would be back down during the code meshing part, wouldn't it be? Okay, we're looking for young. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Nope. Code switching. Here we go. Wheeler and Swords. Wheeler and Swords. Wheeler and Swords. Sure, he said young. In his 2007 book, Young critiqued the notion of code switching as defined by Wheeler and Swords. Okay, that's what it is. Which stipulated that home and school language should be completely separated. So who said that? Just wanna. Okay. So, and offering their a fledgling definition. Okay, so code meshing. The term and its applications have been just as astutely enlarged by others as it has been ardently debated. Astutely enlarged by others as it has been ardently debated. Okay. We are arguing about code meshing. Perhaps linguist Shrish Kanajaraha Kanagaraha 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 stands among the most notable advocates of code meshing, since it's his theoretical and practical scholarship on the concept that has propelled it from an explanation I put in a footnote to a subject of primary focus in journal articles, edited volumes, dissertations, and public monographs. A personal response. Ooh, I'm heartened by both the disagreements and deliberations that code meshing has sparked, and I want to offer a word or two in response to some of these discussions as it relates, at least, to what was my only goal in first promoting the term: to provide a sociolinguistic framework that would help reduce, if not eliminate, both the racial prejudice against African American English and the linguistic injustice against African American people. Okay, that, like, yeah, okay, let's hear it. My goal was and remains, in regards to the focus of my work as a scholar of African American literacy, language, and cultural studies, to help code meshing become an acceptable practice for what I hear and see Black people doing every day, blending, adjusting, playing, and dancing with standard English and academic discourse when they are jiving on the playground, wielding linguistic charm in the courtroom. Doesn't fit you must. Oh dear. Writing police reports for work and speaking and writing anywhere and everywhere. Police reports. That's a very interesting phrase to include there, my guy. Um, Letting everywhere, anywhere, and everywhere, and that communication takes place, whether in informal or formal settings. That's real. That's kind of sus, buddy. Okay. What these Black folks I hear, read, and admire are doing is code meshing. Though I continue to see it like as like, why couldn't it be like, you know, writing reports for work? Why did we choose police reports? A strategic, self-conscious, and unself-conscious. Strategic, self-conscious, and unself-conscious, blending one's own accent, dialect, and linguistic patterns as they're influenced by a host of folks, environments, and media, including mama, family, school, community, peer groups, reading material, academic study, whatever. The reason this view of code meshing is so very important to me is because too many teachers still on one hand, praise African American students for their creative voice and renderings of Black rhetoric when they write poetry, but then condemn those same students when they both unselfconsciously and strategically employ those same features when speaking to non-Black people, particularly white people, or to professionals of any race, or when they produce critical. Oh my! This is a hell of a sentence. I need to. The reason this view of code meshing is important to me is because too many teachers, on one hand, praise for creative voice and renderings of Black rhetoric, and then condemn when they unselfconsciously and strategically employ those same features when speaking to non-Black people, particularly white people, or to professionals of any race, or when they produce critical, academic, or journalistic writing. So, creative, unselfconsciously using creative voice and Black rhetoric in academic or journalistic writing. Okay. So, even though many of these teachers are very well meaning, often saying that they're preparing these students for the real world. Okay. So this is like we're talking about anti-assimilation. We are talking about like we are like against the idea that people need to assimilate to certain forms of English to be validated. Something which that other author would probably be against because they believe we need gatekeeping. And gatekeeping has historically involved, this is this. This is gatekeeping. They must demand that students switch back and forth when appropriate, be black, or as they put it, speak black when it's safe to do so, but not when your job, your grades, or your relationships with other non black people and sometimes other black people who share the same prejudice are on the line. Okay? For me, code meshing is smack in the face to logic that unevenly and unfairly places a societal and racial burden on the shoulders of students who shouldn't have to bear the sole brunt of it so thoroughly changing themselves, their language, just so other people will feel comfortable, just so they won't offend any won't offend just so they won't offend and lose out on opportunities that would be theirs if they weren't black. Okay, so in the other in the other paper, they were talking about how people from other countries were invited to like come to things about US composition, and they're like, we don't really have this problem, we don't have the racism problem, we don't really understand what's going on here. Which, like, first of all, shut up. Second of all, I mean, America does have the racism problem, we do have the racism. You know, like, let's not fuck around, like, there's a problem here, there's a problem. And yeah, you know um but like, maybe, just maybe, the discussion about translingualism, right? In America, translingualism in America in college composition and English college composition is specifically a rhetorical response to the history, the American history of racism and gatekeeping around students who are forced to conform to certain linguistic standards. And maybe if we're going to critique that, then the critique should be of that and not of your choice of the word code meshing or code switching. Just an idea. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm kind of stupid. You know? I don't know. Maybe we should critique the thing we are critiquing rather than critiquing something else that is only tangentially related and pretending like that's a valid critique to be making, you know? But what the fuck do I know? Code meshing says to this thinking, and all the black guys to it can muster, honey, please. Yes, I recognize that I am challenging and attempting to challenge or change the status quo, not only regarding the writing and literacy instruction, but also the court of public opinion. Yes, this court includes other black people, some who even themselves use black English yet still hate it. And yes, I know that some teachers in the public might respond to what I argue with objections that seek to reaffirm that prescriptive standard English is all that students need for academic and financial success. And financial success. Ooh, even if it excludes other dialects and language influence. I also know, however, that there are sympathetic teachers who believe in authorizing diverse language practices, that using black English or that using black standard English and black academic discourse is a good idea, but that they will ultimately and unfortunately rather waffle in the debate than to rally against the world as it is, still prejudiced against blackness, and engage in the world as it should be, egalitarian and truly diverse. What I mean, I need to read over that a little again because this they're very long sentences, and that's not a bad thing. I just get a little bit lost. Okay. I also know, however, that there are sympathetic teachers. There are sympathetic teachers authorizing diverse language practices using is a good idea. Authorize who believe that authorizing diverse language practices is a good idea, but they ultimately would rather waffle than rally against the world as it is. and engage the world as it should be. Okay. So you talk big, but you ain't doing shit, is what he's saying. Hmm, I like that. Therefore, I want to respond to one of the foremost arguments against code meshing. One recently expressed by a very erudite and accomplished colleague, literary critic and writing teacher Stanley Fish. When his opinion against linguistic diversity appeared on his New York Times opinionator blog. Let's see. Okay, I want to see this now. We have to see. I need to see this. I know I said we like don't need to look at citations, but this is a citation that I feel it could be interesting. I mean, and maybe if it's not entirely. Oh, okay, we got a face. A literary theorist, legal scholar, actor, and public intellectual. Oh God, public intellectual. If anybody ever tries to describe me as a public at any point in my life, I think I will like the New York Times. Open like a new tab. Transparency is the mother of fake news. We are now dealing with the problem child of the techno utopian worship of data. Professors, stop opining about Trump. Academic expertise does not entail political wisdom. So long, it's been good to know you. In my last column, I find myself making a point about the kind of point I'm not making, doing what I do just after having announced I will no longer be doing it. Scholarship in politics, the case of Noam Chomsky, dropping it in a three-part master class taught by the master and witnessing thought of the highest order. No Way Out, 12 Years a Slave. The film, unlike the memoir in which it's based, withholds from the audience an outlet for either its hope or its sympathy. I have never seen that movie. Boycotting Israeli Universities, Part 2. Rightness or wrongness of an action has nothing to do with the moral status of the actor who performs it. What? What? This is sus. This is very sus. This is very, very sus. On to my column. For those who the one argument favored by those who agreed with my negative view of the boy. Oh, oh, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy! What a great guy! What a really great guy! Oh boy, oh boy! This is sussy. This is very sussy. Um, standing human. Harry Eagleton, a prominent British Marxist, excoriates Fish's discreditable epistemology as sinister. According to Eagleton, like almost all diatribes against universalism, Fish's critique of universalism has its own rigid universals, the priority at all times in the places sectoral. And what does that mean? Extreme relativism, radical. Oh, this is very. Okay, I need to hold on. I gotta find my thingy. I need you, and I need. Here we go. Okay, Since the early 2000s, a number of academics have been arguing. I'm just going to bring it up. We're going to look at it. Because Israel, the rogue state, engaged in acts of oppression and apartheid, and because Israel universities, by and large, supported and administered by the state, it must be assumed that those universities further the ends of a repressive regime, either by actively supporting its policies or by remaining silent in the face of atrocities committed against Palestinians. Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right to me. That sounds right to me. Accordingly, it is appropriate, indeed a matter of urgency for right thinking, meaning left thinking, oh boy, academics to refuse to engage in intellectual discourse with the Israeli Academy. I mean, I don't see a problem with that. You have an exchange program with an Israeli university suspended. If you are an editor of a scholarly journal board, an Israeli research member of your board, remove him. I mean, I don't know. I'm not, but I mean, I feel like, you know, academic freedom. I mean, I don't know about all this. I don't know about all this. I mean, I like, what the fuck? What the fuck? This dude sounds like a piece of work. Okay, I need to. Oh, back to reading Rainbow for a moment. Love and politics. Is there an antidote to the poison running through our political veins? Oh boy. Um Online teaching, its possibilities, its deadly caveats. Its deadly caveats. Stand your ground, be a man. These laws implicit affirmation of the code of manliness links them to novelistic filmic representations of the old west. The A case for the humanities not made. College teachers to reach out to their colleagues in K through 12. Sure, let's have a bake sale or a dance. What the fuck is wrong with you? Letting go of one's library is more than just clearing this. What? Oh boy. Stepping on. Oh my goodness. Marrying out of faith. A new book suggests that the growing number of interfaith faith couples. This guy just sounds like a major weirdo. Not Clinton supporter. Oh boy. He's a lib. It shouldn't come as a surprise to us that not everyone in the world worships the First Amendment. Okay, I'm getting like I'm getting like stuck on this. Um Staging the Self, The Hunger Games, an analysis of the trilogy and its relationship to the pastoral tradition. I would read that, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about this guy. This guy is a fucking weird. Obama and fairness. President Obama should keep the focus on unfairness and not inequality. Oh boy. Hmm. Oh boy. That major lib. That's a lib. That is a lib. Yep. We're not even gonna bother with anymore with this guy because I'm moving on. I am choosing to move on. Anyway, where were we? Shit, where were we for real? Lost all my shit. Okay. So a very asshole. I want to respond to one of the foremost arguments against code meshing made by this asshole. When his opinion against linguistic diversity appeared in his New York Times Opinionator blog, it received quite a bit of support. It also received some criticism, making it an appropriate response to engage. It also received making it an appropriate response. As I and others urge that people keep code meshing. I don't understand. I mean, I'm sure you have. I'm sure you're going somewhere. Anyway, responding to debates. The debate between teachers who wish to honor students' native languages and dialects as they teach the English language and its various arts, listening, speaking, reading, writing, viewing, and visually representing, and those who believe students must be taught standard English only, since other Englishes are still believed to have limited value, if any, in academic and professional science, is presently just as intense as it was in 1974, when advocates of student rights to their own language published when advocates of students' rights to their own language published their resolution, which to me should settle that waffling of the sympathetic speech and writing teachers about valuing code mission. It's this resolved that promote classroom practices to expose students to the variety of dialects that comprise our multi-regional, multi-ethnic, and multicultural society, so they too will understand the nature of American English. Okay. This excerpt is taken directly from the position statement, which argues that language arts instruction should focus on effective language rather than viewing prescriptions of standard language as the only key to success. We agree. We agree with this. What more, an excerpt from the background statement of the resolution asking deeply about the consequences of what we teach as English and how we teach it. And many of us have taught as though the function of schools and colleges were to this is the statement. Okay, how we teach it. So how we teach it. Okay, and many of us have taught as though the function of schools and colleges were to erase differences. Okay, I I I think I see what you mean by that. What the person who wrote this person who wrote the container, or with the person who wrote the statement. Let's just keep going. Should we, on that one hand, urge creativity? Oh my God, it's 10:30. Creativity and individuality in the arts and sciences. Take pride in the should we? Should we, on one hand, urge creativity and individuality in the arts and sciences, take pride in the diversity of our historical development, and on the other hand, try to obliterate all differences in the way Americans speak or write? And right, our major emphasis has been on uniformity both in speech and writing. Would we accomplish more, both educationally and ethically, if we shifted emphasis to precise, effective, and appropriate communication and in diverse ways, whatever the dialect? Midi on C4 language background statement. As a contemporary advocate of the best features of students' rights, I promote the instructional shift. The document urges from prescriptive instruction to an emphasis on precise, effective, and appropriate communication, whatever the dialect is. Or, as I would add, whatever the meshing of dialects. Okay. However, as I shall again argue here, I am also critical of the prevailing methods that sympathetic teachers use to implement it. Okay? On one side, they simply refuse to teach any effective language that comes from standard English or academic discourse because they feel as if such school based language violates students' home language. Not so. The problem is reprimanding students for blending dialects and asking them to give up their language, favor another one, even for a little while, or to put it as it is often phrased in appropriate settings. This commits the violation. Students in this scenario, are asked to switch from their English to the standard. They are patronized. Patronized? They're patronized. I think patronized is like you're a patron of a bar. Patronized is you are treating someone like shit. Similarly, or maybe mean the same thing either way. Anyway, merely told their language shares, like taking advantage. You're taking advantage of the sale, or you're taking advantage of someone. It's the same exact thing, but it means different things in different situations. Patronize or patronize. I don't know. Merrily told that their languages share equal prestige with standard dialect, even as teachers belie this very claim by labeling standard language as formal and the students' Englishes as informal, thus reinforcing a superior inferior linguistic dichotomy. Ooh, a good word. It's a good word. A recent example of those who urge that teachers adopt the informal formal formulation, see Wheeler and Swords. Okay, here we have a legitimate criticism of the Wheeler and Swords that was mentioned in the other one, I think. That's a good criticism. That's a good criticism. But that isn't because it's the Wild West. It's because that's just a shit take. I don't think we need gatekeeping to know that some people just have shit takes. Like I feel like we can be like, yep, that's a shit take, right? Unless we can't. No, I think we can. I think we can. I mean, do academic, scholars really just sit around like no thoughts, head empty until somebody comes up with a new take? I don't know. All the different approaches, i.e., refusing to teach standard English and teaching code switching, both accede to the monolithic ideal of standard English. The belief that other varieties of English are inherently deficient should be confined to informal situations. What? Close friends and family, needing the narrow rules of standard English to communicate. What? Other varieties. Okay. So that's a list of things. That's a list. Okay, so although different approaches accede to the monolithic ideal of standard English, the belief that other varieties. Okay, the monolithic ideal of standard English. The belief that other varieties of English are inherently deficient should be confined to informal situations, used with close friends and family, and needing the narrow rules of standard English to communicate effectively with. Okay, so it's like a list of things. So yeah, that's a list of things. I had the wrong intonation. Sometimes I read things with the wrong intonation. Anyway, Stanley Fish offered his perspective on the best way to teach writing in his widely read New York Times Opinionator blog. His opinion piece illustrates just how opposed some of the professoriates and even more of the public are to ideas and pedagogies that accommodate Englishes, parroting one of the most tired and biased arguments against student rights. Fish writes, it may be true that the standard English is an instrument of power and a device for protecting the status quo, but that very truth is the reason for teaching it to students who are being prepared for entry into the world as it now is, rather than the world as it might be in some utopian imagination. Okay, you use the utopian sarcastically. I fucking hate you. All dialects equal, all habit of speech and writing equally rewarded. You're not going to be able to change the world if you're not equipped with the tools that speak to its present condition. You don't strike a blow against power structure by making yourself vulnerable to its prejudices. Fuck you. Fish and others who believe as he does couldn't be more wrong. First, no speaker or writer's language, dialect, or style makes them vulnerable to prejudice. Prejudice resides in the eyes and the ears of the holders. From the attitudes people have about certain groups of people, bigoted attitudes, both unintentional and intentional. Ooh. You get a little bit. I respect back. The after the cop thing. After the cop thing, it was like -1. But I see the both unintentional, intentional, and I'm like, yeah, maybe like plus point 0.5, which get protected on certain groups' languages. See lippy green, lippy green. By his flaccid. Despite his flaccid gestures to multilingualism, Fish asserts that there is an essential problem with acknowledging dialects in writing instruction and argues that we should teach students out of them. Oh, yikes. Yikes. For him, dialect prejudice is not his problem, too big to tackle. So we must acquiesce to its power, and this is where he gets especially double tongued. Ooh, he is snake in the grass. He says no one can change prejudice if you can't speak using the prescriptive rules of standard English, suggesting that dialects are incapable of expressing complaint and substantial arguments in the efforts of change. Ooh, oh boy. He is muttering the understanding that in order to dismantle the master's house, you have to use his tool. Oh! Ooh! In order to dismantle the master's house, you have to use his tools. Okay, who said that? Who? They didn't say that. The master's tools will never dismantle. Who said that? Which is Lord Audrey Lord. Audrey Lord? Yes. The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. That's Audrey Lord. I love Audrey. She's nice. I respond, ever heard of a bulldozer? Bulldozers don't build houses, but you can knock down a house with one. In my opinion, code mashing is the bulldozer to linguistic prejudice. Okay, okay, you know, and then once again, there was the cop thing, and I was like, that's a little bit sus. But now we see another instance where I'm like, we're gonna give you, plus. This I think this qualifies as a plus two. This qualifies as a plus two. You know, um, I mean, at the same time, I'm still like, it's kind of sussy, kind of sussy. Kind of, I wouldn't say that like becoming a cop is like how like good people becoming cops. I wouldn't say that good people becoming cops is how we make policing, not what it is. I would say that policing is going to either turn those good people into bad people, or it's gonna not allow them to do the cop stuff. you know and there's various methods of doing that. um so I kind of I'm respect but also critique, both and however, to speak directly to Fish's point that if students learn the standard language, then they can best speak against its dominance, this statement is dishonest as this to speak directly to Fish's point that if students learn the standard language, then they can speak against its dominance. This statement is dishonest at best. Doesn't really mean it, since he begins his article recommending just the opposite. What would a writing course based on the method I urge look like? First, you must clear your mind of the following. We affirm the students' right to their own patterns of variety of language, the dialects of their nurture, and whatever dialects in which they find their own identity and style. In other words, Fish is pushing the very people who have learned the standard and who are now teaching it to abandon their efforts to disrupt its unfair supremacy. What? Yeah, yeah. Okay. We're not affirming students. We are anti-affirming of students. I actually go on a different model where I am anti-affirming of parents. Parents do not get to be affirmed. Students get to be affirmed. Parents do not get to be affirmed. I worked in childcare for a very long time. We do not affirm the parents. Parents are the customers. We do affirm the students. I don't know what the students are. I guess students are kind of cut. Well, students aren't paying for it. Yeah, students aren't the ones paying for the service. Parents are. So the parents are the customers. Students, I guess the students are like, you know, your latte. For comparing this to Starbucks. Anyway, if I take my latte hair very, very serious. Well, I did it when I worked with kids. So I took my latte hair very, very seriously. If Fish were actually sincere about his advice to learn the standard language first and afterward pursue changing it, when the writers of the students' rights, indeed the revolution, then the writers of the students' rights, indeed the resolution itself, would stand as exemplary example. Okay, but Fish ain't for real about seeking change. You got me there. You got me there. He would keep code meshing advocates spinning their wheels, teaching the dominant standard under the false belief that becoming a part of the system is the best way to change it. Assimilation is the best way to change things. See, what you do is you become you are the out group, right? And then you assimilate to the in group, and then you use your newfound power to reinforce and force assimilation on people who have not assimilated yet, so you can maintain your power and standing in the in group. And then while you're doing that, you're like, yeah, maybe we should, change things, but like slowly, slowly, because I'm still kind of benefiting right now. So like we can change things, but like, I really think they have to earn it because like I earned it and I don't think it would be fair if like they didn't earn it. So like we actually can't change things and we need to make it even harder for people to like, attain what I have, right? That's what usually happens when we do the whole assimilation. That's what happens. That's what happens. Anyway, spinning their wheels, teaching the dominant standard, and the false belief that becoming a part of the system is the best way to change it. When what really happens is that we few who do make it and are who do make it are then used as examples by Fish and others to say, ain't nothing wrong with the system. The problem is with the language of most of those who don't make it. Was I wrong? Was I wrong? Where was the lie? We few successful minorities and immigrants thus become the very cogs used to keep that same old wheel of linguistic oppression turning, very hands that keep the prejudicial buttermilk churning. Where's the lie? In addition, Fish encourages teachers to patronize students when it comes to issues of language difference. He writes, if students infected with the facile egalitarianism of soft multiculturalism declare, I have the right to my own language, reply, yes, you do, and I am not here to take that language from you. I am here to teach you another one who could object to learning a second language, and then get on with it. Oh, fuck you. Fuck you. That's being snide. He's promoting that we be hypocritical. This is true. He wants us first to discard policies such as student rights and then says we should tell students, do have a right to your language. Huh? What's more, it appears particularly disingenuous for Fish to ask who could object to learning a second language or dialect when it's only those who want to keep their languages the multiculturals. Oh, no, okay, it's an aside. The multiculturals, that it's only those who want to keep their languages that he feels shouldn't object to learning standard language. I think no, I don't think this is um there's lots of commas. There's lots of commas. And sometimes the phrasing confuses me. If indeed Fish believes that no one should object to learning another dialect, then wouldn't he be a supporter of student rights and argue for the full implementation of code meshing? Yeah, this guy doesn't seem to be very like the guy that you were responding to does not seem to be very well, first of all, he doesn't seem to be very like sincere, and he doesn't seem to be very like he's an asshole. After all, the resolution itself offers the same advice. It encourages the learning of a second, third, or even fourth dialect by all students when it says that teachers should expose students to a variety of dialects that comprise our multi-regional, multi-ethnic, and multicultural society. So when Fish asks, who could object to learning a second language? The answer is him. He does. Since he most certainly objects to students learning and using any variety of English other than the standard, which, as we know from other texts that we have read, um, there is not really a standard English, right? There are many Englishes. because English as a language is translingual and is changing all the time. And just like what 10 years ago we didn't have poggers. Poggers was not a thing, and now it is. Anyway, and here's where I want to speak directly as a teacher to other teachers of oral and written English, whether you teach literature, literacy, communication, or any of its other arts. Too many of us double speak, claiming out one cheek that varieties of English are fully compatible with and sometimes more expressive than standard English as we currently narrowly conceive of it. Ooh. Out of the other cheek, we say, but students must master the rules of standard English usage for standardized tests to show that, they can be successful as professionals at work and at various stages of school. Ooh, yikes. Standardized. Fucking hate standardized tests. Our hands are tied, some of us say. We then close our eyes as we tie many of our students' tongues in hopes that a few will be successful, while knowing from history, past experience, and current statistics that most don't succeed. Certainly, most people classified as minorities won't not under the current limited rubric of what counts as linguistic success. Exhortation to teachers. Yet, English teachers are not brick and mortar laborers. Ooh, that's a little. Oh boy, yeah, minus half a point. Minus half a point. We are mediators of culture, transmitting beliefs and values about people and language and all that we do. I mean, I don't see why a person who's doing a brick and mortar type labor cannot do that as well. I don't see that's kind of weird. That's kind of weird. I feel like that's kind of actually really weird. Dude, that's a weird. You have made a weird statement. I don't really. That's really weird. Because of this, it's important to be aware of the ideology we spread through our instruction. Though there are more below are three interconnected beliefs that English teachers sustain when we disregard code meshing and teach standard language only. When we operate as if it's a fact that standard English is what all professionals and academics use, we ignore the real fact that not all successful professionals and academics write standard English. We ignore the many examples of effective formal writing composed in accents and varieties of English other than what's considered standard. Further, we ignore that standard English has been and continues to be a contested concept. Woo! English is not standard. It is translingual. Meanings change all the time. We say that our hands are tied because of standardized tests and public perception. We allow test makers, the commercial world, and the general public to dictate our professional responsibilities, to decide and affect what we teach and negate our own professional training and credentials. Oh, minus half a point there. The thing about like the general public. I mean, I would say that like your students are part of the general public, and that your students' the needs are the needs of the general public, and that um. Okay. He's talking specifically in the concept of like public perception, a public perception. Yeah, like it's like yeah, but at the same time, I do feel like once again, your students are part of the general public. It's like the brick and mortar laborers thing. Like we're not brick and mortar laborers. We shouldn't. The brick and mortar laborer perception is not something that should concern us. Mhm. No, and I will say that like in the U.S. we are particularly anti-intellectual, and like I get where he's coming from, but I don't think the solution to that is creating a further divide with this kind of us versus them rhetorical strategy. Like, I don't know how effective that is. Yeah, like you're not wrong, but yeah, we choose not to use our individual and collective agency to alter. When we say our hands are tied, we choose not to use our individual and collective agency to alter the prevailing linguistic prejudice. When we teach standard English only, despite feeling, knowing, or thinking that it limits students and is not the only, why does it do that sometimes? That's like really annoying. Like some of them it'll be like that, and then some of it will just like be a block. I bet has something to do with the formatting. It's like definitely has something to do with the formatting. I don't know what though. We are studying standard English as if it's a decree from Hitler. What? We teach standard English only, despite feeling, knowing, or thinking that it limits students and is not the only effective mode. We are studying standard English as if it is the decree from it, as if it's the official language of a dictator, of a totalitarian government, and certainly not the language of a democracy where the voices of all people should matter. I mean, I mean, I think, oh, that's just a really weird way to phrase that. That's just a really weird way to phrase that. I don't know. And where diversity is appreciated, encouraged, and accepted. When we fear black backlash or that we'll lose our jobs if we follow resolutions of our national professional organization, shouldn't that very fear indicate that that best practices are not driving English education and that democracy is not in action? I mean, I mean, I mean, I mean, you know. Hmm. In the view of the foregoing, I continue to believe that the time is now to teach and learn code meshing. It seems only right that we can at least try, so as as has become my mantra and urging, keep code meshing, keep code meshing. Okay. So that's our last text. Wow. Wow. It's like this is my first time like reading all three of them. Not all three of them. Like not all three of them. I let the thing read a lot, didn't I? But I read like, you know, the whole thing. This last one. You know, beginning to end. I read the whole thing from beginning into to end. That's gonna make it a lot harder for like clipping things. So I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. But so we have code meshing. We have, you know, the importance of the difference between code meshing, code switching, and oh, what was the other one? Code mixing, code mixing. Um, hmm, no, let's go back up to this one. I don't know. Who is it? Yvette Milson White. Okay, so these are three different authors. Regarding valorizing yet not legitimizing. Okay, so then you're using code switching. I feel like I feel like this one did not really explain. Like I raised these three concerns, but then you don't actually explain the concerns. I begin by presenting an aspect of the background to linguistic behavior in post-colonial societies, and I outline proposals and list their, but you don't actually you raise the concerns, but you don't explain them. Like these are your concerns, and you need to like tell me what the hell you're concerned about. Like we need to define these words. We are, and this is take it back to the whole thing I was talking about, like the debate thing, right? We need to know what the word debate means, right? We need to know what your key terms, about your issues mean. Like this person is speaking to a very specialized discourse community, I'm willing to bet. And that's why they don't really feel like they need to explain these things because they expected us to just understand it. And it's like, my dude, my guy, my buddy, I guess, I don't know. I don't know your pronouns specifically, but my friend, my friend. I need to know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm just like some random person. Inability to code switch effectively. Potential um so like, problems regarding valorizing it, not legitimizing. So we're like, yeah, I just, I don't know. It's not really much of a synthesis. No, we're not really doing much synthesizing today. I don't believe that we really have to like go hardcore on the synthesis. I mean, I feel like an honest effort is nice, but it doesn't actually need to like get done because I do actually I like after I finish this part, I go and like write, the actual synthesis paper thing, and I like accentuate it with clips. Um so I don't actually have to like do any synthesizing per se like in this video because I'll just do it like later in the paper. But yeah, there's a lot of shit going on here. And what is the title of this chapter? Code meshing orientations. That's a hell of a chapter name for the things we just read. Now I'm kind of wondering what like the other chapters were called. Oh, that's the meme repository. Which one is the 828? No, 914. 914. That would be the most recent. Okay, so we don't actually have the chapter title for last week. Critical lens. No. Ugh. Okay, well, so anyway, I think we're gonna call it a day. I think we're gonna call this a day because I'm fucking tired, man. I've been streaming for like what 5 hours. I know it doesn't look as long on this. I mean, I don't know how long it looks because we had a little bit of like my internet kind of shit itself at one. So I don't know how it looks, but I've been live for like 5 hours. So anyway, I think I'm gonna end it here. So thank you for joining, as long as you had. Thank you to our new subscriber, Kubo 1700 or 1700. I don't know, however you prefer. I'm not sure how you prefer. Anyway, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for joining, however long you did. Um and yes, I trying to make a have a community. You kind of have to have people. Be a part of the community. Be one of the people. Good place. We got good vibes. I say fuck a lot, but it's okay. Okay. I'm not gonna say fuck less. Fuck even more. It's okay. Translingual. We're doing translingualism. We are doing. I am going to make. I believe, right? I believe very strongly, very firmly that every part of our existence is an artistic expression, right? And part of that is the rhetorical choice to say fuck whenever I want. So I say fuck a lot. The YouTube algorithm does not like it. I'm not here for the YouTube algorithm. I'm here to build a community, meet some people, find my people, you know? And if you want to be one of my people, follow me. Otherwise, no big deal. Anyway, I say that a lot. I'm like, I get lost the tangent, and I try to like, I say, I'm like, but anyway, trying to find my way again. Um, yeah. I don't know if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. I guess. No pressure. You don't have. Actually, don't like and don't like and don't and try to like engage with anything. Because I don't actually want to hear what you have to say. Except I actually think I would be really interested in hearing what you say, but actually I'm not. Kind of am. I don't know. No pressure. Whatever you want to do. You know? My brain is like a basket. I just shove shit in there. I shake it and shit falls out. Well, put this into the old basket. Shake it around. See what falls out. Who knows? I don't care. It'd be nice. You don't have to. Anyway, my next stream will be Friday, the 23rd. At what time precisely? I do not know. Probably around 5. I have desperately want to see. But anyway, uh, yeah, Friday at 5 Pacific time. I'm in California. See you then. Bye bye.